Very, very quiet. We're hunting for
Well, this is probably
pre-show.
boring for most people, but
What'd you find?
ASCII Cinema, however you're supposed to say that.
I love
cool
ASCII
site.
Cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a 2.0 out now. Pretty
Uh,
fun. It's boring, though.
You got anything else? You got anything else?
I'm trawling here.
Is there a Bing news site like there's a Google news site? Is Bing News a thing? I bet. I just even saying it out loud, it sounds like it's a thing.
Yeah, news.bing.com.
Wow, of course. We could always go check what. Should we go see what Bing News has for us? Maybe the story of our dreams is over at Bing News. Everybody, we're trolling for pre-show topics. If anybody in the Discord wants to talk pre-show topics, discord.me/Jupiter Colony, or you can hang out with us in the IRC, irc.geekshed.net. Jupiter Broadcasting. There is a dedicated Unplugged channel. There appears to be no one in there, though. Oh, wait, no, that's because I'm in the wrong channel. Never mind. I apologize.
Get over here.
There are several peoples in there. Oh, yeah. Oh, man, Jeff. Yeah, jeez. Ovs. What is the problem? What is our problem? Why are we not... I mean, it seems like the Nintendo Switch running Plasma Desktop could be the way to go.
True. They've already made it. They've customized it just for you.
Ooh, an Indiegogo. Veratunda links us up to an Indiegogo. Oh, and it's got a video. I do like an Indiegogo with a video. Let's take a look. Yeah, Planet.
At Planet Computers, we are passionate about typing.
It's basically like they were going to go with Jupiter Computers, but then they realized we took Jupiter Broadcasting. Yeah. All right.
At Planet Computers, we are passionate about typing, writing.
But this isn't new, so I don't think that's good pre-show. But it's good. It's cool. I do like the Gemini. Let's see. Is this got audio on it? I guess you could call that audio. It's technically audio. Oh man, sick! Righteous!
I got a Patreon page for a project that's like wine, but for OS2 binaries. If you really like that sort of thing.
Okay, all right. Where's that at? That's not bad. You want to drop that in the Discord or something?
Yeah.
I mean, so I'd say our contender right now is the Switch running Plasma.
Yeah, that's probably the best.
That's the contender
You're
right
such
now.
a plasmoid.
I am a big plasmoid these days. That's what I am, Wes. Did you put it in the Discord?
I'm doing it. I had to.
One job.
My tab was suspended.
One job.
I know.
One job.
My job is that. Done.
Nice. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay.
I don't know if they actually have anything interesting though. Oh no.
Well, you could run Unreal Tournament 2004.
Yeah.
Everybody jump on that one real quick now. All right, well, it's Iculus, so that's awesome. So is this Iculus's Patreon? Oh, okay. All right, well, now I'm more interested because it probably is actually legitimate. So there's that going for it. It's not just some jerk-off that just is masturbating over OS2. So I like that. Somebody's got to save it. So, okay, our what do you say? Do we go with Switch running Plasma or with Iculus creating a wine for OS2 called Twine?
I like the name.
Yeah, Twine's pretty good,
but
actually.
the plasma theme has been so consistent of late.
We did cover it in LAN, though.
That's true. You're right.
So
That sours it a bit.
All right, well, what do you guys think? Mumble Room. Hold on, Mumble Room's muted. Hold on.
Let him in.
I know, screw these guys, right? Okay, what do you guys think? Should we go with Switch or Twine? I hear nothing. There you go.
I'm not sure.
Oh, JJ, come on now. I went to all that effort.
Switch.
Switch? Cassie says Switch. Okay. All right.
I'd say the Switch is too big, though.
Too big? Girlfriend, what are you talking about? The Switch is just right.
Shouldn't the bigger news be inside of the show instead of outside of the show?
Oh, it's not that big. No, it's not that big. Oh, I see what you mean. Story-wise, we already talked about it on LAN, so there's that aspect of it. It's already been covered in Linux Action News. But also, it's just a proof of concept, and the code hasn't been released yet. So we won't have anything big to talk about until there's something where we can say, and go do this to flash your own Switch. And by the way, I just bought a Switch. That'll be when it's... Because if this is like released as like something I can do as like a ROM, I hook it up to a computer, over USB, and I'm downloading something to it, and Bob's your uncle, all of a sudden I'm running Plasma Desktop on a Switch... That would almost be worth putting on a credit card, really.
We will be
That's pretty
doing a
great.
live install on the
Also,
pre-show.
You notice that Popey's not running the KDE right now.
I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. You know what? I said it.
Bum, bum, bum.
What a turncoat. What a dirty
Well,
turncoat.
there could be a reasonable explanation for it, but
Like he works
I'm
for
not
Canonical?
No,
Someone upstairs saw.
No, could be that he's using a different device.
Is he secretly running Arch Linux?
I do not know because he's muted and deafened.
It's very suspicious. Very, very suspicious. All right, so let me see here. I got to get my soundboard working again. We've had soundboard disasters
We're
recently.
going to need that later. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure
I
Stallman
thought it
has
was
some
the
important
unbreakable
notes.
soundboard.
Huh?
I thought it was the unbreakable soundboard.
Well, it did really good for a long time, but it does turn out that if an open source community comes together in the middle of the night and bangs out a soundboard for use in daily production, there may be one or two undiscovered bugs that resulted. So, yeah, that is a thing right now, but we're pushing through. We're pushing through. You know, Wes has been there supporting me. You know, I've called up Wes a few times, and I said, oh, geez, Wes, it's done it again. And, you know, Wes always had sage advice. He always said, just go punch a hole in a wall and beat one out. And every single time I punch a hole in a
Calm
wall.
you right down.
Yeah. Just
And then you could go back to troubleshooting. It's all about the prereq.
Hello, Popey! You see, he's in the Discord. He's too good for us on the Mumble, though. All right, so my sound card isn't showing up for the soundboard.
No sound card today.
No sound card. No sound card.
We've had some power outages here at the studio. Totally, handled them gracefully. Not a problem at all.
Everything's solid. Everything is cool when you're part of a team. All right, so oh yeah, your face, your dumb, stupid robot face.
What about Chomper?
There we go. I just plug and unplug it. You know.
Yep.
I just plug and unplug it there.
See
Wes.
my previous instructions.
Chomper. What's Chomper for?
Chomper is a Python command line program for use on Linux, which can create blacklists or whitelists of allowed websites for a specified
I
period
see.
of time.
We're back on the pre-show thing. I
Yeah.
thought we settled on Switch.
Oh yeah, we did. I guess so.
All right, so let me see. Do I have?
But then we lost audio.
Good. What? We lost audio?
No, I mean.
Oh.
Up your shirt.
Hey, Wimpy.
It's a really long one. It's long. Soundboard's working again, though. Soundboard's working. I think we ran Wimpy out of here.
Well, question. Is it wrong to use the @here command in the Discord channel?
The what?
The @here that notifies everybody in Discord?
That sounds obnoxious, but I don't know. I don't know if we have an official policy on the situation. But that sounds obnoxious. I tell you what I don't like is getting mentions. I'm not a big fan. Like if you look at, see, it's just like I got this PM situation. Look
I
at
could
this
try @everyone.
So where's my PMs at? I don't think this shows up on screen. Oh yeah, you can kind of see. Look at all these unread damn PMs I've got in IRC. Look at all them sons of bitches right there. You see all those red numbers there on the side? When am I gonna have the time to read all that? You know what? It's too damn much. It's too much. It's too damn much. I don't know. You know?
Yeah, I think the real guideline is: do you not if you want to actually send an ad here, but do you need to send an ad here? And it feels like that situation is pretty rare.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wise. That's wise. That's wise, Wes. Yeah, that's so wise. Damn. First,
Yeah, but since there are very few people in the Mumble Room, I mean, just to let people know, hey, we're open.
yeah,
those
we're
that are
open for
muted.
business. Yeah,
Reclaiming my time.
that's true.
I just don't have anything interesting to say.
Mommy needs a joint.
Is that Kaylee Cuoco? Is that Kaylee Cuoco that last?
No. It's just some mom. There was a clip in Unfiltered called Pot Moms, and it's about moms that get together and they all co-watch their kids and smoke pot together. And it was a story.
Oh.
We played a clip of that in Unfiltered because, that's just too much. That's too fun of a story to let that slide
she
by.
sounds like Penny from Big Bang Theory for some reason. I don't know why.
Mommy needs a joint.
It's sort of that sound. Well, guys, you know what? I'm really excited to be here with you today. We're gonna have a good show. We got a lot going on, a lot happening. Rumor has it that
Rumor has
Will
it.
Cook and Dustin Kirkland from Canonical will be joining us shortly.
Oh, whoa, that's huge.
We'll see. Well, I don't see him yet, but that's the rumor. And
If things go right.
yeah, and they want to spy on all of your things. That's the rumor. They're gonna just
We've already backdoored them, and so we're just giving them full access.
Right. They just want to know specifically where you live. They're going to turn on your webcams, and they're going to submit it all over HTTP, I
It
believe.
uses machine learning and computer vision to determine which
so
sex
much to talk
toys you
about
have.
that. I'm saving it for the show. I got so much to talk about that being a dual booter.
And we have some interesting news from our friends over at Elementary and Pop OS. We also have some, I was talking to Noah about it. He's very excited. We also have a bogus Linux story that I saw linked in the chat room earlier. Bad news for OpenStreetMaps. And then I got a huge announcement I'm making at the end of the show. Big old fucking announcement. Big old.
Announcement with the network or announcement with JB or...
Well, I'm going to end the show. No, it's a network announcement.
Levi's getting his own show.
That's right, the Levi Action Hour. And it'll be insightful commentary in the form of sniffs. And sniffs and snarfs. Yeah.
Law?
Yeah.
The law?
Yeah, it'll be like...
LAH?
And then every now and then you hear that flap, 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 from the ears. That's the one when he really wants your attention.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Well, let me figure out other ways I can make money.
How is the dog, by the way?
I'll just get a dog in there. We'll get a squirrel stream. It'll be great.
Squirrel stream.
Yep. We'll be rich. He's good. He's good. He's really good. He's at home taking care of Hidea today because she's homesick. So he's not in the studio with us.
Hope she gets better.
She usually doesn't stay sick too long. And
I mean, squirrel stream. I mean, technically speaking, there's already a squirrel protocol being worked on.
That's true.
Intent.
And I see on YouTube, there's eagle streams. We got fucking eagles here in Washington. I was out driving around getting some pork rinds. This is a true story. There's a place up north that they fry up pork rinds fresh. I'm not a big pork rinds fan, but
fresh out of the fryer. That's
it's
hard to
something,
say.
Wes.
No,
it's something about it because they're literally still popping and sizzling when they come out, and then they've got a lime sort of spicy salt and then a bacon salt. You got two different options.
Now bacon salt. Woo!
The bacon salt's the better one.
Double your pork there.
So you get a little pork salt on top of your freshly fried pork skin, and it's still popping and sizzling when it comes out. And hell, if it's just not some of the best food, it melts in your mouth. They have this great chipotle aioli dip that they make with it.
What are you doing to us?
As a vegan, you've offended me, so I'm going to start a petition to get you kicked off your own show.
I understand. It's fair.
Well, technically, I'm on the side of rotten because it's now Lent as of a few weeks ago. So.
Well, if it makes you feel better, this story is from about a month ago. So I'm I'm driving out there. Sure enough, I got to tell you, if it wasn't the most tasty kind of it was a long drive, but if it wasn't the most sort of melt in your mouth kind of perfect treat, and then they have this whole selection of local beers and ale. I got a cider. I got a pomegranate cider.
Pomegranate.
Really good. Really, really good.
So did the eagles?
How did I get on this? Oh, eagles. Yeah,
what
thank
happened?
you.
Did they attack your family?
I got all distracted by the pork rinds. So I'm out there driving to get the pork rinds, and sure enough, Wes, if we don't see one, if we don't see two, but 3 damn bald eagles flying around out there, just flying around.
They like
Wes.
them too.
Well, it's the fields. There's meese out in them fields and rabbits and stuff.
Rabbits galore.
These bald eagles.
I mean, it's about to be spring, isn't it?
Have you seen these things? These bald eagles? These are huge birds.
They sure are.
These are huge.
Them raptors.
They are raptors. They're a pretty badass bird, really.
Yeah, it's true.
It almost feels like
big talons.
they shouldn't be birds. Like they should be some other category of animal. And they're vicious.
Although, thanks to Carlos Linnaeus.
What about Carlos Onés?
I was making a bio joke with that, but it didn't go forward.
I didn't get the reference. I'm sorry.
Binomial nomenclature?
Do we have an official state bird? Alexa, what's the official state bird of Washington State?
I think every state has one.
The goldfinch? Can you look up the goldfinch for me real quick, Wes? Because I have a sense that is... Oh, man. That is American goldfinch. That is sounds like a bird. It sounds like a fish. And
it's a small little yellow bird. Gold, perhaps.
Nothing about that looks like the Pacific Northwest. That bird doesn't encapsulate the Pacific Northwest.
Well, where I'm from, we have 2 state birds apparently.
I can't even with this. I am majorly disappointed. And I gotta say, the females are very unattractive. Look at that gray bird right there. The
My
female
state bird is an awesome name.
Really, what is it?
Yellowhammer.
That's all right. So let's take a look at that. Because is that cooler than ours? Because ours is pretty bad, pretty bad. Hey, and don't even consider trying to save any of these images.
No, absolutely
Yellow
not.
hammer bird. Yeah, I'm gonna look this thing up.
Chris, did you take that picture?
Yeah,
you wouldn't download a picture, would you?
I wouldn't. You know what? If I was a bird, I would not get in a fight with this bird. Look at that bird. Look at that chest. Look at the chest on that bird. That's a
Ooh,
tough bird, puffed
strutting
out.
It's stuff.
That is. And this one. Tell me if that one doesn't look like he's a bit of a recluse. And this one right here.
See, we're back on the drive time hour.
He's
and
a
now
rogue.
we're just assessing the physical attractiveness of birds.
That's a rogue right there. Look at that chest. Look at that chest. That is a rogue.
That's what does it.
That bird with the speckled. Boy, if you took these coats out of context, that sounds really bad. I should probably stop saying look at that chest. That sounds like I'm talking about something completely different.
Soundboard already.
Yeah, I know, right? Let's see. Well, I'm waiting on a few of our friends, and then we can probably get. We actually have a couple minutes. I'm trying to don't tell anybody. Only the people here live are going to know about this because it's not going to affect the length of the live show. But over the next few weeks, I'm going to shorten up the show a little bit, get a little bit shorter, a little shorter runtime for Linux Unplugged, just gradually, just to kind of as I sense people's feedback.
We're trying to get in shape for summer. So
yeah, get our
trim
summer
the
bod.
fat.
Yep, get our summer bods going. So it won't affect the live. We'll still stream the same amount of time. We'll still hang out and mumble the same amount of time. So for those of you here, nothing really changes. But you might see if you listen on the download, you might see the episode length get a little bit shorter. And I'm still going to try to publish.
So more community exclusive stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm still going to try to publish the live stream when YouTube doesn't smack me in my face. They have tried to demonetize every video we've put out this week. And I don't get it. Like, Linux Action News 41 and the description, there's not, it's the title is Linux Action News 41. And the description is like, it talks about dtrace and like it's totally, there's nothing offensive about it. There's no cussing in the show. And it's a visualizer, so it's not even like there's a boob or something. It's a video, it's an audio visualizer, and it's demonetized immediately.
Unsuitable.
Could it be because it's Linux?
No.
Maybe, but I doubt it. All of our shows this week
I got demonetized as well.
Do you? And then of course they won't even review it until it's they won't. Oh really? They won't even review it until it's at 1,000 views.
Yeah, I've gotten demonetized a few times, but not as much as a lot of people.
Question: have you guys considered Twitch at all?
Well, that's just live stream anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a different. Yeah, it's sort of. I mean, I know people are releasing content on Twitch like they do on YouTube, but.
Yeah, you're not allowed to upload yet unless you're like a known partner.
Okay.
So like they're in beta testing for that, but they are making it where you can. So right now it's just streaming, and then you can make the streams watchable after the fact, but it still has to be streamed.
Hello, Wimpy. How are you?
Evening. How you doing?
Are you back at your regular location this week?
I am. Yes.
You were out and about, wasn't it last week?
Yeah. I was taking a couple of days away.
Good for you. Well, thank you for still joining us, even though you were away. It was good to chat with you. How did Curry go? Can you reveal any details?
The band is back together for season 11.
Whoa!
Nice.
We should try to remember to mention that then. If that is now public, we should just give it a mention in the show. Is there a place people can go to? Has that been posted anywhere? How do you know?
Well, we've kind of hinted at it on Twitter.
Okay.
We'll do something more formal in time.
Okay, well, that's cool.
BT Dubs, Wimpy, you have one of my predictions from the last show of last season, so yay.
Yeah. Well, I thought for sure this would be the time it didn't come back. Oh no, I didn't. No, I didn't. Although
we need like a howdthecurrygo.com constantly.
I'm gonna take a page out of the Ubuntu podcast playbook. It's not. I don't think they wrote the playbook, but it's one that they're actively using
and compiled. Yeah.
So I'm gonna later on in the show, in the announcement section of the show, I'll see if Wimpy can guess what that part is that I'm pulling from the show. Well, Bitcoin's back up to $11,000. How about that, huh? It's rebounded quite a bit. It's been a pretty big bounce back, and you have to wonder, like, How does all that work?
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I'm starting to get a little suspicious that there's some big players that are moving the market pretty significantly, and a few of them decided let's take advantage of a Bitcoin sale, and they pushed it down as far as they could push it. And now that they've picked up the coins that people panic sold, they're driving the price back up. What do you think, Wimpy? Am I crazy, or do you think that's possible?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that have got enough Bitcoin to move the market.
Yeah. It's kind of the Wild West.
Yeah. Well, I bet Will Cook is one of those individuals.
Hello,
Will. Hello, Popey.
Hi, guys.
Hi. We were just, Popey, I'm sure you've been following it closely. We were just talking about how Bitcoin's gotten back up to $11,000.
Oh, totes.
Yeah,
I'm
totes.
all over that Bitcoin nonsense.
Totes.
You've got your like VR Bitcoin price monitor all set up.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I saw you guys talking shit about U.S. curry in your Ubuntu podcast group. I saw that.
God, yeah. Curry in America is terrible.
I'm willing to accept that. That's
Just like American chocolate.
Well, I mean, these are things I'm willing to accept. Also, go ahead and take a shot at our beer. But I think it's possible that you may not have gotten all of the curry options. I don't know, though.
Massaman curry is awesome.
I think you probably have a way higher batting average, though, over in your neck of the woods. I bet, like, you can't throw a ball and hit bad curry over there. And over here, it's, like, pretty hit and miss.
Yeah, percentage-wise, yeah, probably.
Yeah, that's true.
We have Empire Roads, miles of curry restaurants. It's just like everywhere you can see, as far as the eye can see, it's Indian restaurants.
Portions are quite a bit smaller. I mean, I know that's a stereotypical American joke, but the pictures I saw, it looked like the
Oh, no, that was only because I just served up a small amount on my plate of each thing.
Okay. So it's still sort of served up.
He was worried about you.
I was like,
Don't worry, I'm not wasting away.
Okay, good.
Although it's a shorter distance from India to the UK versus to the
Yeah,
US.
exactly.
And also
That's why you gotta
preserving
figure.
all those spices and all those imports.
Both geographically and historically speaking, yes.
All right.
Wow.
Plus, as they ship it over,
Way to
everyone
bring up
pinches
partition,
some.
bro.
All right, well, before we start, I got to go get myself a Diet Dr. Pepper.
Good call.
So you guys chat amongst yourselves while we go refill our bevri. I don't see... Somebody keep an eye out for Dustin. He may be popping in too. But we'll get started here in a couple minutes. BRB. Enjoy yourselves.
I spy the elementary posse.
Heyo.
Hey.
Hello.
By the way, how do we get upgraded to roles in this server and or others?
Can't hear a word you're saying.
Yeah, no,
You're talking into a pillow.
Sorry, my arm was on top of the mic. So, how do we get roles in this server and or in any application in JB? As in, like admin.
There's no actual system. It's more like it just falls into your lap sort of thing.
Okay.
I don't know.
I mean, after so many shows, I mean.
No, there's no like policy or anything.
So Dan, have you got your stoner voice on this week or not?
I sure hope not. How's it sound?
No, it sounds way more Dan than stoner Dan.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
unfortunate.
It sounds
Wait,
Unfortunately-
stoner voice? What? I missed
Unfortunately
something.
normal.
Oh, it's
It was
normal
great.
again? Oh, yeah. That I got a sound clip of that. That's right.
Did.
No, of course not. No, of course not.
That wasn't the intro to the show or anything.
No.
Oh, right.
It actually plays when you go to JupiterBroadcasting.com.
Yeah, it just loops in the background. So we have a little pre-show topic to start with here. Let me get that loaded up. Wes and I just got done doing a little bit of recording. This is our second show of the day.
That was the warm-up show.
Yeah. All right. Well, while we do our pre-show, we'll see if Dustin arrives. So coming in a 3, in a 2. You might be familiar with wine, but are you familiar with twine? It emulates OS2 binaries the same way that wine can emulate Windows binary. It's named such to continue the fine tradition of programmers producing good code and bad product names. And it comes from the one, the only, Ryan C. Gordon, a.k.a. Iculus, so you know it actually might be a bit legitimate. He just posted this to his patrons on his Patreon page. And, Wes, good news. They've got Unreal Tournament.
Oh boy!
Of all the things, right? That's what he goes with. But he's pretty fired up about it. He actually says this is a big deal. And Ryan does have quite a bit of experience porting games and 3D applications over to Linux desktop. And I got to be honest, this does speak to me a little bit at a deep nerd level, not because I'm planning to use OS2 for anything, but in a way, like, you hate to see this stuff die. And when it's all digital, like, we have the means to preserve this stuff, and games and whatnot are art.
That is definitely true. Even if you don't care about any of that, it's kind of just a fascinating read. He dives into a bunch of details about the progress he's made so far, why it's difficult, and why it might not be that difficult overall.
Yeah, so I expect any week now, Popey will be taking the Twine Challenge and running everything on his desktop through an OS2 emulator.
Hang on. Wait, what? OS2?
Yeah, it's an OS2 emulator. Yeah, OS2. Yeah. You want to take the challenge, Popey?
I can't get my head around this. Wimpy was more of an OS2 guy than I was.
Yeah, I've got Arkanoe on one
Really?
of my ThinkPads. Yeah.
You were a big OS2 fan, eh, Wimpy? Well, what do you say?
Yeah,
There you go, Wimpy. You take the challenge.
Yeah,
take it.
I'll give it a go. I switched from OS2 to Linux.
There you go. There you go. And now you can switch back. I didn't know that. I did not have very much experience with OS2, but I had a little bit, and it always seemed quite pleasant to me. The little bit of exposure I got to it. Maybe I did know that, but I'd forgotten that you were a OS2 user first. Suppose we all had to come from somewhere if we've been in
That's
here
right.
for a while. Yeah. For me, I got more early exposure to a lot more of the sort of DOS operating systems and Mac operating systems because my exposure all came through graphic arts in schools and production software early on. So it sort of skewed the...
the good old days of DOS.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you've just reminded me. I've got a new motherboard for my DOS laptop.
Wait, what?
A new motherboard for your DOS
replacement. Yeah, I've got a ThinkPad 755C, which is quite old and crusty and runs DOS. And unfortunately, the motherboard has this one I bought off Fleabay, and unfortunately, the BIOS has a password on it, and it's not easy to remove. And I found a guy in the States who was selling a replacement motherboard. So while I was over there, I got it delivered to me. It was great.
Yeah, this is some clever moves. While he was down here for the sprint.
Wow.
Yeah, we did chat about
Buy
that.
an ancient motherboard.
Come to the States. Buy an ancient motherboard.
Pick up old hardware.
What runs on DOS?
What doesn't?
Wait, what? Everything.
Hello, Windows.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Yeah, all right.
Well, it's vice versa. DOS runs on Windows.
Yeah, or DOSBox. All right.
Yeah, I just wanted to relive those
It is actually
and
fun.
autoexec.bat days.
Yeah.
It is actually kind of fun in a way. So I have been, I'm not going to do it this episode, but I have been considering dropping the intro for this show.
Okay, yeah.
Just because, we've been doing this now for 237 weeks, and I don't know, it's a long intro.
So would it just be like a cold open?
No, it would be maybe more like a hit.
Uh-huh.
Like a
real short
jingle,
trim.
like not a jingle. That puts the wrong, but like a, I don't know, like what exactly.
Stinger. Just make it go dun.
Like
dun,
that
dun,
could be it
dun,
right
dun.
there.
Yeah.
Actually, that could be it right there. Just that could be the whole intro. And then we're into the show.
Linux Unplugged.
Have you seen the BitConnect meme? You should do that, but just Linux Unplugged. Just
No, I
have somebody
haven't.
Yell it.
Oh.
You haven't seen this?
No.
timing.
Can you link
Good
that in
timing.
the Can you link that in the Discord? Oh, I see one, Mr. Kirkland. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Hello, Dustin. Good to see you. Welcome into the Unplugged program. Welcome in. While I kill myself with apparently some sort of lung failure. All right, so I want
You
to
only
see
need
this.
one, Chris.
Yeah, that's true, and I do got two. Season 2, huh? I don't know. I floated the idea past Joe, and he didn't like the idea very much.
I always thought of Linux Unplugged being an everlasting series on JB. Does it have any season openings or season closing?
The never ending. Oh, I have seen this.
What? My wife still doesn't believe in me. No. That's a scam. Yeah. Be connect.
So it's a Steve Ballmer of,
of
cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
And he has the bald head too.
See, I don't hear anything from Dustin over there. JB1 to, I assume, maybe Texas. I'm not sure. Over, Dustin. Are you reading us? Come back now.
I don't see a friends ad icon.
Oh, whoop. Heard something there for a brief moment. We had what appeared to be an open mic for a moment. There was contact. JB1 to Texas, come back. Do you read?
Houston, can you hear me?
Yes. Awesome. Hi there.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
How are you guys?
Good. Good. So we're going to do the intro, and then I got a KDE story about them getting some crazy pineapple money. And then we'll do the metrics. So, Dustin, now your mic's open now, so now I'm getting some noise back from you, too.
So what's the push to talk button? I was trying to use that.
Well,
there isn't one. You have to set it yourself.
Yeah. So
all right.
So, and where do you do that? So it's if you go to my configure menu.
Configure.
Why do I have nothing on the configure menu? Look at that, Wes.
Configure settings.
This configure menu is completely blank on this machine.
Configure settings, then shortcuts.
Shortcuts.
You have to create a shortcut, then choose the function push to talk, and then choose the shortcut on the shortcut section.
Double bell. I wonder if we could have Richard install Inception while he's still doing that. See if I can catch it in time.
Let's do it.
You ready?
I wonder if that package dropped.
I never installed GNU/Linux.
We did. He got it too soon. Good job, Dustin. Damn it.
All right, now I'm pushing to
Oh,
talk.
damn. That's perfect.
Sounds a little better.
Well
No
done,
water
sir.
noise.
Well done, sir. Yeah. All right.
And thanks for the walkthrough. That was quite good.
No, I know it's a little esoteric to configure some of that stuff, so no problem.
Jesus, why wouldn't you put that option right next to the hey, I want to use push to talk?
I honestly, I probably.
I mean, it's something you set up in the setup, don't you?
If I was left to my own devices, yeah, there is an option somewhere there. If I was left to my own devices,
You go through the wizard, yeah.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Rotten and some of the others that helped me run this thing, I don't know. If I was left to my own devices, I don't know if I'd be able to handle all this. So.
If there was only a way to send some statistics back to the Mumble project.
Oh no! That's amazing.
Which, by the way, I was prompted. Do you want to send user diagnostics back to the Mumble project on installation? And the box was checked by default.
Yep.
I'll just note.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so let's get started. We're all fired up. We're ready to go. It's the Unplugged program. It is 2:37. So guys, stand by as we do our intro, and then it's just going to be podcast magic, I assume. At least I hope so. Otherwise, why the hell did I show up today? Right?
Yeah.
Why the hell did you get in a fight with a hobo?
Well, that was worth it.
That's true.
Victory.
That was a lot of fun. I don't know what that was. This is Linux Unplugged, episode 237 for February 20th, 2018. Oh, welcome to Linux Unplugged, your weekly Linux talk show this week that's so packed with goodness. Well, we're going to give you an extra side. My name is Chris.
My name is Wes.
It's going to be a side of announcement. We'll tell you more about that in just a little bit, but first, this week, we'll cover some community news. The good folks over at KDE just got a surprise donation from the Pineapple Fund. We'll tell you about that. Our friends over at Canonical want to know a little bit more about how your computer's set up, so we'll talk directly to the horse's mouth about that. I do love the horse's mouth. I always think of Mr. Ed.
That's right.
With the peanut butter.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so tasty.
And then later on, our good friends over at Elementary OS and System 76 working on Pop OS are doing something that I think a lot of you are going to agree with. They're turning on disk encryption by default. But this isn't a simple implementation, and there's a lot of user challenges to work through and edge cases that have to be thought through. So we'll talk to them about turning on disk encryption by default when you install Elementary OS or Pop OS in the near future. GNOME's got a new tool to check on your system. A big bogus Linux vulnerability is getting all of the attention this week. OpenStreetMaps has woes. And then we're going to wrap it all up with that side. It's going to be a tasty side, maybe a berry flavor. It's an announcement here at the network. Something big on the build up to scale is coming back to Jupiter Broadcasting.
You got to stay tuned. You got to listen to find out that.
You know it. You
tasty
know it.
little morsel.
You know the drill, Wes. You know the drill. So, Wes, before we go any further, it is our duty to bring in that virtual lug. Time appropriate greetings, Mumble Room.
What's
Evening.
up?
Hello.
Hello.
Hey. Ooh, hello. All right, so how many of you are using the Mumble Snap today? Just say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Sure.
Whoa!
Impressive.
Dude, I'm all of a sudden I'm having FOMO. I'm just feeling like I should be catching up. Wow. All right, we'll talk about production testing. We're going to put it through its paces this week. All right, well, let's start with a little bit of good news. The KDE project is extremely pleased to announce that they have received 200,000 US greenback donations from the Pineapple Fund. Now, they go on to say that they're going to use these funds to further their cause to make free software accessible to everyone on all platforms, which is good because I was pretty convinced until they made that statement that they were going to use that money to fund proprietary software. So I'm pretty glad they made that clarification.
Ooh, close call.
Yeah, the money's going to help them realize their vision of creating a world in which everyone has control over their digital life and enjoys freedom and privacy. Well, apparently they're going to buy out Apple and Google. And I think this is great. You know, the Pineapple Fund says that KDE is a necessary community project which just has a general benefit to the public and advances the use of free software on all platforms. So that's why they were all in. $200,000. The Pineapple Fund has been busy recently contributing money. I don't know a lot about the Pineapple Fund, but I need to do some more digging. I did a little bit of reading, so I have a rough idea, but is anybody kind of familiar with Pineapple Fund before I run my mouth about it? Anybody want to save me and just eloquently describe in a few short, beautiful sentences?
Eloquently.
What do you think, producer Michael? What do you think? You got a shot?
Well, I mean, it's just like it's a Bitcoin-based philanthropist, basically.
Right, and when it came to the Free Software Foundation, they actually donated Bitcoin to the Free Software Foundation.
OpenBSD is one of their beneficiaries.
But in this case, for KDE, I believe they donated cash. They converted it to cash.
Cash.
And, yeah, pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. So you can find it all out. They've raised $53 million and donated to 58 different charities so far. I like that. I think that's pretty cool. I think that's a great use of cryptocurrency too. You know what I mean? And if you donate now and then they can use those funds down the road, well, today as we record, Bitcoin's back up to $11,000, probably because of manipulation via Popey's huge wealth. But
that guy.
I know. But, you know, it's
now
going
you
to
can
a
feel
good cause.
good about that and not just feel more poor.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Thanks to Popey, really. I think that might be Mr. Dustin Kirkland you hear there coming in a bit. So let's talk to Dustin and Will Cook. They're both joining us from Canonical, and you may have heard of an email that Will sent out to the mailing list recently over for the Ubuntu development, in which he says that they're looking at how to focus future resources around engineering, and realized, you know, we could use some information, some data, if you will, like what version of Ubuntu people are installing, if they have a network connection, the type of CPU that they have, how much RAM, how did they lay out their disks, what packages did they install, what GPU do they have, who built their computer, these kinds of things that they don't actually currently collect. But whenever you start talking about collecting additional data from users, it causes quite a bit of reaction. So I thought instead of us just rampant speculation style here on the old show.
But that was going to be so much fun.
Dude, I'm happy to do it. Maybe we'll just save that later. But first, we'll get the information from Dustin and Will because they're in this thread. And this email came from Will Cook. So, guys, welcome to the show. And Will, why don't we start with you and kind of let's hear your version of what you guys are proposing.
Sure. So, I mean, as you said, data-driven development. This is what we're all about. We need to know where we should be focusing our efforts, what things people like, what things people use, and you know they should get the lion's share of our engineering efforts so that we can fix the bugs that are most important to those people.
You know, when I first saw this, I had a couple of different reactions. My first reaction was, oh, people aren't going to like this. But my second reaction is you weren't collecting this already? You're not already collecting this information? That seems like information that would have been collected from day one.
Well, yeah, so, you know, from day one, we've always had an apport running, which is the thing that pops up and says, something went wrong, would you like to report an error about it? You know, that's always been there. PopCon was there for a little while. PopCon's been in Debian since forever. But, you know, the raw data about what sort of hardware that we're running on, yeah, we haven't ever gathered that.
So the thing that you're also suggesting, well, actually, I have a follow-up question to that. The one metric I think that's probably getting the most strong reaction would be location information. What kind of specific location information will you be collecting?
Well, so we talked about this internally before we sent the email, and we decided that it would be useful to everybody to know where people are in the world. You know, if we find out that 90% of our users are based in India, let's say, then we need to be focusing on the translations for India. If we find out that everybody's in the US, then, you know, we need to be making sure that the English translations are up to date. We're not gathering IP address, IP address information. The location will be the location that the user chooses at login. So, you know, there's no sort of nefarious snooping on where we think you are. This is purely, you tell us you're in this country. That's, you know, we take that on face value, and that's what we record.
And so it's not tracked to like a specific user and location. So you wouldn't necessarily get Chris F. in Arlington, Washington when you look back at the metrics?
No, it's like purely country level, you know, literally top level country level information. So, yeah.
Okay. And then the other thing, so that you mentioned it really in there quickly, as PopCon. PopCon is a tool, if I'm correct, that's sort of monitoring the users' packages that they install to give you guys over a canonical and aggregate overview of the most popular packages. The idea there, I suppose, would be, well, if we have an idea of what the most popular packages are, then we know where to dedicate patch time, backporting time, resource development time, integration time. Is that what PopCon's about?
Exactly, yeah, and you know, we have the archives, and people hit the archives in order to get packages. But let's say that that we could look at the weblogs on those servers, which we don't. But if we could do, we could see that people were installing a specific package. A lot of people were installing a specific package. That doesn't tell us whether they install it once and then uninstall it, or they install it and they use it every day, or they install it and they use it once a year. You know, that's the sort of information that PopCon gives us. And with that information, we can look at promoting packages that are in Universe, which is the sort of the lowest level of support that we offer, up to main, which is something that our security team get involved in. So if everybody's installing a specific package from Universe, they're using it every day, then we can look at promoting that to main, and then the security team and whoever it is that's maintaining that package will spend, or will be able to spend, a lot more time making sure that security bugs are fixed, making sure that the latest versions are packaged, keeping that up to date for everybody. So yeah, that's extremely useful information for us, and it's extremely beneficial to our users.
So I think I have a couple of questions specifically for Dustin, but Will, one of my kind of bigger picture questions I have for you is, the flip side of this is you've also stated that you plan to make the data public. Wouldn't that also mean that you plan to reveal exactly, roughly, pretty damn close, how many Ubuntu installations there are, how many people are using Dell laptops versus an Entroware laptop? Like, isn't this going to result in a lot of speculation being answered? Because then you'll have real numbers. People have like, well, Ubuntu has X amount of users, and there's never really been a big public number released about that.
It's been... Will, I'll jump in here, actually, at this point. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And everything that we've put out so far has been our best guess, interpolation on roughly how many users have downloaded the ISO from the Ubuntu.com mirror, not the mirror run by your local university, because, you know, obviously we can't count package updates or ISO downloads from mirrors, for instance. So in a way, yes, there will be a lot more information available about the general usage of Ubuntu, how and where. I actually hope that there's some interesting conclusions that can be drawn by people outside of Canonical. I often look at the stats that are published by Docker Hub. If you hit Docker's API, you can see pulls of the Ubuntu image, or the CentOS image, or the Debian image, or the Mongo, or the MySQL image. And I think part of that is, you know, obviously those are statistics that were anonymously gathered by your usage of the Docker binary, fetching an image from Docker Hub. But the fact that information is also available for others to consume and graph and plot and interpolate is, I think that's part of the important social exchange.
That is an interesting idea. So I want to ask you a couple of specifics about that, really. So what you're really talking about is essentially making all this data public and then making JSON feeds or some sort of queryable feed available so people can pragmatically generate graphs. That brings me to the infrastructure question. All of this, I'm on board with it. In fact, like I said, it kind of seems like it should have been done from day one. The part that I take pause with is the back-end implementation of storing this data and verifying that it is being abstracted away from user identifiable information. How is that being put together? Because it seems like we're late in the 1804 game right now for that to be built. But I'm only looking at it from the outside.
Sure. So that backend infrastructure is not yet implemented. In fact, right now we've put this out on the Ubuntu Devel list. We'll post it to the Ubuntu Devel list, which is where we discuss proposals such as this. Even if we started transmitting that information and just sent it to a dev null, nothing to catch it just yet. That would be okay. In that eventually we'll have that infrastructure in place and set up. Of course, we're based in Europe and have lots of users in Europe, and everybody knows the GDPR requirements come into play this year. And so Canonical as a company, as a business, we're under the regulation of the EU, and we're taking this very seriously. So there should be every bit of confidence here that this data will be dealt with as anonymously as possible, and not just because we feel that we owe that to the free and open source community, but also because it's EU law, frankly, at this point.
Yeah. Okay. I mean that. Yeah. I completely forgot about the new rules coming into place, and that does make sense. So my question then, I guess I go from that to. And I'm not sure if this is maybe a Will question or a Dustin question, but let's assume, this all gets worked out, stuff gets built in, the option in the installer is there where people can uncheck it. How does it affect distributions that are based on Ubuntu, that are maybe using the Ubiquity installer?
Sure. So I'll throw a spotlight on that first point. This will be as easy to disable on any machine as clicking one box to uncheck. And that disables all diagnostic information. So what we'll describe, there's basically three sets of information. One is a set of pretty generic statistics about a machine. How many disks, how many network cards, what sort of CPU. What that enables us to do is to ensure that the Ubuntu experience is optimized for the sort of moving target of what does the system hardware that Ubuntu is running on generally look like? Where are the outliers? Where's the sort of center of gravity? That bit of information is more or less a one-shot. Here's
right.
the hardware profile.
Can we underscore that for a second? Because that was something
Sure.
that wasn't totally clear to me, but because the way it's sort of worded in the email to the mailing list is it sort of sounds like when I think of user collection metrics, I think of Windows 10 telemetry, and I think of almost constantly sending, as I use my computer, sending back information. But with the exception of package installations, it's essentially a one-shot data collection. Is that accurate?
That's right. So where this all come from was we were looking at the Ubuntu installer and we were debating as to whether some of the installation options made sense anymore. Does anyone, there was a checkbox at the very beginning which says automatically download updates while installing, which I always check because sure, I want when I'm done installing, I want to have all the updates. And so I asked the team, hey, do people check that box or not? I'm curious, can we just get rid of that box and automatically download updates while installing? And as it turns out, we don't know. We don't know how many people check the box that says install the MP3. Yes, I want MP3s to work on my Ubuntu machine. We actually don't know how many people, how many people opt to encrypt their hard disk. I'm really keen to hear from the Elementary OS guys about their disk encryption plans. It's sort of, a place where I geek out about. We didn't actually know, and at that point, we started looking at just the installer and being able to know what does the average Ubuntu user select as their base set of installation options. Are there some options we could just get rid of because they just don't make sense anymore? And in doing so, we combine that effort with another set of questions we had around what desktop apps are installed on the most Ubuntu machines, as well as what are the buggiest apps in the Ubuntu archive. And we realize all of this really comes together in a general send diagnostics or don't option that we see in every operating system, be it Windows or Android or Mac. We'd like to do that tastefully, and we will do that tastefully. And I think the fact that we're offering to share that information publicly hopefully makes it valuable to the average Ubuntu user. The average Ubuntu user will see a better Ubuntu experience.
Sure, I mean that just seems like it's just clearly gives you a better path to follow in. You can see, oh, look at everybody's uninstalling Thunderbird. It's just Thunderbird's getting removed from almost every system. And I go back to something we covered this week in Linux Action News, is 1804 is going to feature a minimal install option, which removes 80 packages, including Rhythmbox and Thunderbird, and a few others that I don't generally use. And of course, Canonical would have no way of knowing if anybody's using that unless they turn something like this on. And you can see what options people are doing during installation. But Dustin, I just want to underscore and make it super crazy clear for everybody listening, because I think this is a really important point. The only ongoing data collection, if somebody checks this box, is if an app crashes, and it will submit the crash in the background now. And
That's right.
If package states change, and then those statistics will get submitted. That's the only ongoing collection.
That's right. So when a package crashes, Apport catches that crash and would send Canonical a crash report. And Will can talk about how we've used that, how that has helped identify some pretty major breakages in Ubuntu, and we've been able to stave that off early. People who enable the propose repository will start catching those packages if you have propose, and then we cannot roll out that buggy fix to the masses of millions of Ubuntu users.
Yeah.
So yes, that would be ongoing. The other one would be a periodic, and I don't know what the period is. I don't know if it's daily or weekly, but think on the order of daily or weekly anonymous submission of the packages installed on the system. So that's PopCon. PopCon is what we're going to use, which has been in Debian for ages. We've been using PopCon, but we suspect that the number of users who go out of their way to enable PopCon on Ubuntu is probably less than 5%.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's not very representative. And you know who does enable it? Geeks
Me.
like you and me.
Yeah.
Probably not the Ubuntu user at large who's never heard of PopCon. So our statistical bias there is quite high. So what do you know? Vim and Emacs are super high on the PopCon statistics list. Meanwhile, VLC is relatively low. Who would have thought?
Yeah. So to your point about using that data to catch stuff, Will, is that sort of to Will here? Is that sort of Dustin being polite and saying this one of the reasons why we're not shipping Wayland in 1804 is because of this data we've collected with the app crashes?
Yeah, absolutely. If you go to errors.ubuntu.com, then you can see the sort of crash reports that we're getting in there. And, at the top of that list are the buggiest applications. And that is what we look at every day. And those are the bugs that we focus our efforts on. So, yeah, absolutely. This is invaluable information for our team.
Look at that big, huge jump right there. Oh, Wayland. That's great. Yeah, errors. I don't think I've ever actually looked at the graph there at errors.ubuntu.com. That is pretty cool. So, what's next?
This is exactly.
Go ahead, Dustin.
Errors.ubuntu.com is exactly the sort of information that we make public, that we collect and we make public. And I think this is, we're not hiding what we're doing with this information. We're trying to make Ubuntu better by studying graphs like this.
So this is obviously pretty important to get into 1804 because that's the next big one that people are going to be using for 5 years. So what's the next functional step? You guys are collecting feedback. Do you start actually building out the code on the client side? Do you start looking at mocking up ways for users to possibly disable this after install?
Yeah, the mockups are public. In that same thread that Will started on Ubuntu Devel, Canonical's lead UI UX designer, Matthew Paul Thomas, replied with a publicly visible Google Doc, which is the design doc for the overall Ubuntu installer. It's 40 or 50 pages long, but if you Control F, search in there for diagnostics, you'll land somewhere in the middle of that document. And you can see the rough mock-ups from our UI UX team as to what the wording will look like, where it will fit into the flow of installing Ubuntu, and how it's enabled and disabled.
So I guess I have one piece of advice, if I could for a moment, if I could be so brave, is
By all means.
make it clear that If there's some way to keep it short but make it clear that it's not this crazy ongoing metric collection, I think that's what people are worried about. But the question, I guess, that I think of from an end user perspective is, so say I go buy a Dell Sputnik XPS 13. I would assume that Dell is probably going to turn this on by default, and I don't go through that installation process as an OEM customer. What is going to be my opt-out option in that scenario, and how likely is that feature to ship?
Will, you want to talk a little bit about how this will be enabled, disabled after the fact in the System Center?
Sure. So, you go to the GNOME Control Center, GNOME Settings, and in there there's a privacy tab or option down the left-hand side, and in there are all of the usual privacy stuff which exists today, and there will be some extra ones in there. We're still working through the designs. As Dustin said, we're working with design on how granular we get at that point. Do we allow people to individually toggle the app-port reporting and the popcorn results? Or is that going to be confusing to the average Joe, and it should just be on or off? These are decisions which need to be made. But those settings will exist. They will exist on day one, and they'll be there to switch on and off as you choose.
Right, so the Apple-based approach would be the binary, send statistics or not, keep it simple, it's just one thing. The slightly more Linux approach would be, well, let's actually dissect that. Would you like to send crash reports, yes or no? Would you like to send package information, yes or no? Would you like to send hardware information, yes or no? So I think we're going to work through that, but as I said, we're soliciting feedback, and we're keen to hear from your users, your listeners as well.
What's the most constructive way for them to get involved if they're fired up about this, and they want to constructively contribute?
Well, let's point them to the Launchpad bug tracker.
Okay.
I do have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what is there anything being done for de-averaging? I just think about my personal use case where I install Linux and a lot of times gets to be Ubuntu in a lot of old machines that it's not the primary daily driver. And of course, that will definitely skew the statistics saying, hey, we have a bunch of old machines.
Yeah, people firing things up to try it out, things like that.
I think that's super important information, actually. I think it'll all come out in the, as we start treating this data, millions of records potentially. I think it's super interesting. If there are still people using Ubuntu and expect Ubuntu to run on an ancient Dell netbook or something like that, I think that's important.
The data will show 32-bit libs.
What I really wanted to know is like what kind of, if you can disclose what type of strategy and if that information will also be released, because de-averaging is definitely one of the hardest things to do properly when you have large data sets. So I'm interested to hear that side, because for me as a developer, right, I can go into that list of information you're releasing and I would be able to say, oh, so people are building for these low-end computers, better not use these new fancy features. But reality is my target user base would still be on the fancy computer.
So the question is,
mattering my app for that.
To sort of pare this down, the question really is, will you publicly be disclosing the math being used to average all this stuff out?
Sure, exactly. I don't see why not. I predict no fewer than 5 master's thesis written in 2019 based on Ubuntu.com
5 theses and 25 conspiracies, Dustin. Producer Michael, I want to give you the last question, then we should probably move on, because I think Producer Michael has a good one.
Yeah, I was just wondering if the data itself is interesting, and the opt-out is something I actually think is potentially beneficial in another way that it might not be considered in some people. But I was wondering if you have it so that someone has to opt out and they check it to opt out, would that information be sent to Canonical as well, so that people would know how many people opt out versus continue?
One ping only.
Yeah, that's the proposal right now, that there's one ping that says opt out or statistics equals false. Once again, we throw away the IP address and the location information, but the simple ping of this user declined is important in understanding the statistical validity and the statistical power of and those are statistics terms of the data set. Actually, if you don't know how big the data set is, the data is only only so useful.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. So let's start the ridiculous outrage right now. Canonical's even tracking me when I tell them not to track me. There you go. I said it first, so now you can make fun of anybody else who says it after me.
It's a spyware.
Guys, this is all fascinating. I'm really curious to see where this goes. Is there any other points you wanted to get out there before we move on to some of our other news?
I'm just curious, how much would this impact at trying to get more OEMs to try to deploy Ubuntu on their machines as an option?
Will we know until we see the data? That's really the thing. You know,
potentially it has a lot of potential because that they actually would have data.
Right.
Yeah. I've been around Canonical for over 10 years now, and in the early days, it was trying to convince Dell and Lenovo and others to take a chance on this crazy open source Linux distribution at a time when Windows and Mac sort of dominated the market. There was no Chrome OS, there was no Android, and it was super difficult to show the size of the free and open source community. I think if nothing else, even non-Ubuntu users hopefully can understand and appreciate that this sort of information will help all open source projects make their case that, hey, we do deserve, the open source community, do deserve a seat at the table at any OEM, ODM discussion, and hardware enablement, from your latest Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and graphics adapter just working out of the box with Linux. All of that has to happen upstream. Someone has to pay for that development. Some product manager somewhere has to make the case that there's enough Ubuntu, there's enough Linux users out there to make this justified. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be a huge contribution if you think about it. That could really be a massive amount of data, because one of the things that seems to be definitely true, just from an observational standpoint, is nothing puts the stress on a project like Ubuntu shipping it by default. Once it starts, you can have, with all respect to the projects like Fedora and others that will ship Wayland and ship the GNOME desktop for years and do a really good job at getting that shipping, but there's nothing like Ubuntu shipping something by default, because it puts a whole nother category of stress on something. And it's way more eyes, it's way more different flavors of users. It's a totally different world. And so if we could start to, as the community, get data from this huge distribution, massively beneficial, even if you're not using Ubuntu. And the fact that you guys are going to make it clear and easy to uncheck the box, I can't find anything to be super upset about this. And I would love to. I love me a good rant.
That'd be a great story.
Yeah. It sounds pretty solid. So, guys, thanks for coming on here, Will and Dustin. I really appreciate hearing it from you directly.
Thank you very much.
And I'll be keeping an eye on how this all goes. We'll see what goes, where things develop. What do you think, Wes?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and that we have this wonderful open source ecosystem, and so it seems like there will only benefit any number of different projects.
It is the era of data, and it's another way to contribute now. Is data, and if it can be done in a tasteful way that doesn't
upfront, and
I like that the location stuff is country level too. That makes me feel way better about it. So I like it. All right, well, we'll let you guys know though. It'll be something we look at in our 1804 review, so we'll know when it ships, at whatever state it does ship. Let's keep going though. We have so much more to get into. I want to take a moment and thank Ting for sponsoring the program here. Ting is pay for what you use mobile, a fair price for however much you talk, text, and data you use, with nationwide coverage, no contracts, no sneaky agreements, anything weird like that in there. It's just simple pay for what you use. I think I pay somewhere around $40, usually just below that, for 3 lines. Average Ting bill is $23 per phone. I know. And you know what, Wes? It's their birthday.
Is it? It's happy birthday, Ting.
I know. And to celebrate, they're giving away shirts, because you get presents for Ting's birthday. The first 100 Ting customers, they get them. That is. I actually should ask Kyra who did their swag for that, because that is legit. And I wouldn't mind getting that same person to do some swag for us. Coda Radio? Damn near 300 episodes. I gotta get some good. I know, I got it. That's some legit swag. So the first 100 customers at Ting get that. I don't think I'm in the first 100, but I've been there for almost 4 years, so I gotta be in the range. I don't know. I wish I could be a Ting hipster. Anyways, they're still giving away some, so maybe I can still get one, and you can too if you go to the Ting blog. But do us a favor, start by going to linux.ting.com. That'll take $25 off a device, or $25 in credit if you bring a device. They got a great control panel, fantastic customer service, and tons of devices to choose from. And really the best customer support ever. Linux.ting.com. Go follow them on the Twitters too. That's how I found out about their t-shirt giveaway. They're Ting FTW on the Twitter. Linux.ting.com. And a big thanks to Ting for sponsoring the Unplugged program. Boom-a-boom, boom-a-boom, boom-a-boom. I like the drums there, Wes. You knew where I was going.
I sure did.
Wes was air drumming while I did that. Dude, that's almost worth putting a camera on you just for that. All right, well, so you heard Dustin mention it there, and I teased it in the intro. The crazy cats over at Pop! OS and Elementary got together and decided, you know what we need to do? We need to collaborate on making it possible to ship encryption turned on by default on future System 76 machines running Pop! OS and Elementary OS installs. So to tell us about this crazy work is Cassidy and Dan from Elementary OS and /System 76 in Cassidy's case to tell us all about this. So guys, where do you think we should start? Cassie, should we start with you and tell us about the work, sort of the collab work between Pop! OS and Elementary on this here thing?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Tell me, so how did that kick off? I mean, I know you are kind of you're kind of in a good position there, being involved in both Elementary OS and working for System 76 as an employee. But that didn't necessarily mean this had to come about.
Right. Well, obviously, I'm a secret agent for Elementary within System 76.
It's a long play. That's a long play, Cassie.
Right.
That's a long.
No. So yeah, I don't know. Like I had been using Elementary OS at System 76 for quite some time. And you know, anytime you can collaborate with another project, it's a good idea to think about it.
Yeah,
so
really, especially if it's something like working on an installer together. That seems to be like a solid sort of collection of resources and efforts.
Yeah, and so we'd done a little bit of collaboration in the past with like App Center. So Elementary developed App Center, and Pop! OS is using it as Pop Shop, which is just a really simple front end for the repositories.
Okay.
But we decided, you know, Elementary had designed this spec for an installer, and we'd been working on it for years, just kind of on as a back burner, like, hey, someday when we get the resources to do this, this is what we want the experience to look like. We would like to do
it. Yeah, okay.
And System 76, when they kicked off Pop! OS, they were kind of thinking the same thing, like, hey, we have a chance to really tailor the install experience, you know, people's first touch of Pop! OS and System 76 with an installer. And they looked at the Elementary spec for our installer, and they liked it, and so we got together and hacked on it for a week.
Okay. Fair enough.
So we did that. I forget when the first Hackfest was, but that was a few months ago. We did a first initial Hackfest, went over the spec, and went over the designs that we had already designed. We updated them. The Elementary guys worked on the front end, and the System 76 people worked on the back end, and it got off to a great start. I think we have an upcoming blog post about that. That one's not published yet. But after working on that a bit, we decided to get back together, and this was last month, to continue working on it and discuss kind of where we are and what we want to do next.
And is that when the topic of encryption came up?
Precisely, yeah. So a lot of System 76 customers actually require full disk encryption. So that's, you know, high security environments, some of the strictest security requirements. They have to have their entire disk encrypted. And that's something you can't really do out of the box well today. It requires you reinstall the OS. So what we would have is we'd have customers who were getting the OS or getting System 76 hardware, then downloading the OS,
and then having to
flashing it to a flash drive, wiping their computer, reinstalling,
and then probably forgetting to install the PPA, and it's
it kind of defeats the purpose of
an out of the box experience.
Out of the box,
right? Yeah, okay.
So it was really important to System 76 to have encryption out of the box because that's a big requirement for a lot of our customers.
Okay.
So we started thinking, you know, if we're working on this installer, we have an opportunity to ship encryption out of the box, and so that's what that blog post was about.
Figuring out, and really, you know, when I went through this, what I realized, Cassidy, is that it is way more complicated than just checking a box by default. Like, you have stuff in here about recovery partitions and essentially like escape hatches. Can you talk? So what's the big what's the big problem by turning this on by default? Because obviously, if it was just checking a box, that probably would have been done 5 years ago.
Right. So yeah, the biggest. I mean, there's kind of two things. There's the technical implications and the UX implications.
Sure. Yeah.
The technical implications are that you can't ship a computer that's encrypted out of the box and have that actually be acceptable because the OEM then has the encryption key.
Right, and they probably
So you
generated
can't-
from some sort of standard image, so if they have some sort of
Right.
flaw in their process, it could become predictable. I would imagine that's something to worry about too, is like you have to make sure
Right.
you're encrypting it in a way where the user owns the password.
Yeah, and there can't be an opportunity for the OEM to get that password because then it's not as it's just useless and
so
you have
how
to
the hell
reinstall
do
it anyway.
that doesn't how do you do that when you're shipping it pre-built?
So we started talking about this idea of a recovery partition, and this is something other OSs do, but it's where basically you have an install media as a small partition on the drive out of the box, and this gives you, if you totally screw up your system and need to reinstall, it means you can just reboot into the restore partition and reinstall without having to go get a flash drive or anything. And with that comes the ability to reinstall the OS as soon as you get it. So you could still technically be reinstalling the OS when you get it, but it removes the need to go get a flash drive and download the OS again and everything. So with our installer, the idea is you can, when you receive the computer, you open it up, and as far as the user is concerned, it says, hey, do you want to encrypt your drive? And you can say, yeah, sure, that sounds great. And what it's actually doing under the hood is reinstalling the entire OS.
Wow.
Ooh, I
But
see.
you don't realize it. And then you reboot and you're off and you set up your user and you're good to go.
So it's still pretty close to the old out of the box experience. They don't have to go through all the full installer. They get boot started halfway through, but under the hood, it's all still new.
Yeah, and so this installer has a mode, so it has an OEM mode, and then it must have like a just a regular end user mode. If I download the ISO and I install Juno or Pop! OS, I get the installer that lets me do it at the time of installation. But then there's there's been allowances made for the OEM to set it up, and the settings that the OEM sets must translate through reinstallation, I would assume.
Yeah, that's the idea, is that we precede as much information as we can. So if you choose a language, or if you choose any settings that you choose, get restored back when you
Package
do the
additions,
reinstall.
new packages, different PPAs.
I'm not sure what all that is right now.
Okay. And is this going to be available in elementary OS as well as Pop! OS?
Hopefully, eventually.
Good man. You don't want to say for sure because it's
Yeah,
all like
so-
future stuff.
Yeah, our standard line is when it's ready.
Yeah, when it's I see that actually it's literally the ending line of the blog post. So
Yeah. So the goal would be to ship it in the next version of Elementary OS and Pop! OS.
Yeah.
I think in both of those cases, we both, System 76 and Elementary, have a backup plan of shipping Ubiquity as is if things don't get done on time. Because I think we're both aiming to release in April or as close to that as we can. So, there's that a little bit of a time crunch, and you've got to figure out if it's worth shipping an entirely new and less tested installer or
Right.
shipping the old.
well,
And
to that point, there
working one.
must have been. I mean, there must have been some discussion between the teams there where you're looking at the things you need to accomplish, and I don't because I wasn't there. The top 3 on my list, installer wouldn't have been there. So why was installer number 1? Like, what was the background to say we really got to address this problem? And I'm particularly interested from the Pop! OS perspective because to me it seems like the majority of the Pop! OS customers are going to experience the OEM install. They're probably using Pop! OS pre-installed, but the installer was still a high priority. So do you have any background on sort of that and kind of what the goal is there?
Sure. With Pop! OS, it is definitely, it's made for System 76, like, first and foremost, but we definitely want it to be usable by anybody out there. So installing, the first experience you get when you're installing is still your first experience with System 76 if you didn't buy a computer from System 76. So, when you buy a computer, you're getting it you're going to the website, you're getting the packaging, you're opening it up, you're getting the first experience of the hardware. So you have a good first experience there. But when you're installing Pop! OS, on some other machine, your first experience is really the installation. So we wanted to make sure that no matter how you experience System 76, it's a good first experience.
Sure. And if I go through that and I go, damn, that was pretty smooth, I might think, I wonder what else they do that's smooth like that.
Right. It's the whole interaction is important.
Yeah.
And then even with the OEM installer, or even with the OEM installation, when you get it, you still do go through that first setup right out of the box. So you're still actually going through part of the installer process. Especially with the full disk encryption, that was really important. That you would actually have to go through an installer process. It can't be a user setup if you're going to fully encrypt the disk.
So encryption by default, I think everybody in our audience is going to be pretty on board with that. I heard from Noah that sometimes folks have issues when they're updating like NVIDIA binary drivers and whatnot. Did you run into those issues and have to sort of test through that?
I mean, we're always doing constant testing on things. We have a QA team that does that at System 76, but it's kind of to the point where technically it works really well. The people who know it doesn't work for them have an option to just not encrypt out of the box.
Right.
But I think, pushing it by default, it's secure by default. Like that's protecting user data by default is what you should be doing in today's day and age. So I think it's important to get it out there by default. And that also helps, add a whole lot more testing in, after we obviously test it at System 76, that also adds a lot of testing out there in the real world if it's shipping by default.
Yeah, and when you think about it, laptops are becoming more and more the primary machine for a lot of people doing work. And so that's really where the use case is, to encrypt your data. Maybe if you have a desktop that's 75 pounds and sitting on your home office, I don't know. But for a laptop, like, you're always working on your laptop.
And especially I can imagine, many clients, that's
absolutely
many standards required. And
good on you guys. I think people are going to really like this. And it's pretty cool to see the collaboration there too. It seems like a natural fit. I'm waiting for the day when I can buy a System 76 machine in the currency of my choice with Elementary OS pre-installed. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Of course, the currency of choice.
We'll see.
We'll see. It's always changing. But good stuff, guys. I'm
hey,
glad to see it.
Dustin here. I just want to add kudos to the Elementary OS guys. That's fantastic. I've spent a lot of my career working on disk encryption and encryption in Ubuntu, and I applaud you for the work and development that you've done here. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Awesome. And it's going to be great to get more end users banging on this for everybody. That's the thing.
Plus, as Linux users, we love to talk about how secure our operating system is, but a lot of times it's far behind unless you know what you're doing. So this is a great step in that direction.
And you know what else? The takeaway story is, the big story is, the 1804 installer and distros that are based on 1804 and their installers are about to get a lot more interesting in this next release cycle. There's new things that coming. Just really quickly, too, while we're talking about new things that coming, did you see GNOME usage? GNOME usage in GNOME 3.28, speaking of 1804, and another distro shipping GNOME 3.28. There's a new app in there. It's called GNOME Usage. It's sort of basic at this point. It really kind of shows you two things. It shows you your resources and your storage. And that's...
What else is there?
That's kind of it. And it's current. It's real time, like what's happening right now. It's not like historical. Processor usage, memory usage, network usage, and storage usage. It actually looks decent, though. It's something that's actually been in work for 2 years, as Joey points out over at OMG Ubuntu. And it does not replace GNOME System Monitor. Don't worry. Your beloved System Monitor is still there. Ooh. In fact, it's getting a couple of new features, including improved support for dark themes in GNOME 3.28. So there you go. Even though I'm recording this on a Plasma desktop, still giving you some GNOME updates, right? Hey, we can do that here. We may have done the Plasma Challenge and found it to be, well, all of us except for Popey. Rumor has it Popey moved off like
betrayal,
like some sort of vagabond.
Shut your filthy mouth. No, I didn't.
Oh, really? Oh,
no, I'm still using KDE Neon like a champ. It's great. In fact, I haven't even rebooted since I installed it.
No kidding. I actually wouldn't have either, but we had a power outage over the weekend here at the studio. So a couple of my KDE machines did have to reboot. Okay. All right. Well, there you go. The rumors before the show were false.
There's been some false gossip.
Wow. I don't know if we've ever had I don't know if we've ever had a challenge stick like this before. I'll say this too. The other day, I had my machine up for a while, and I went to go resize some windows, and it was still fast. It sounds like a small thing, but it's all it takes to make me happy is that the fact that I can resize windows and it's not super
responsive
slow.
To the last.
It's, you know what? It has been, and I really like it. Well, there you go. A little update there, and some new toys coming to the GNOME desktop in 3.28. Lots of goodies coming down just a couple of weeks away, actually. I was going to say coming down the river.
Yeah, this sounds like the future,
but it's like it's
basically tomorrow.
It's like a few episodes out. Boy, We have so much to get to.
I'm excited
You know what
already.
else is just a few episodes out is Scale. Scale's coming up really soon, too. And then shortly after that is Linux Fest.
Oh. Where will we find the time?
You sure you don't want to jump on Lady Jupes and just come down to Scale, Wes? I mean, I'll put out the couch for you.
Now that is very tempting.
You know what? Take a little road trip in Lady Jupes. There's nothing like traveling in Jupes down to California. I'll tell you what. And, you know, you keep Levi company.
I was going to say, if there's Levi involved.
All right, well, before we get into the rest of the community news, including that bogus Linux vulnerability, OpenStreetMap woes, and my big announcement, let's talk about DigitalOcean. Simplicity at scale. It's a platform you can spin up infrastructure on in seconds. Everything is SSD-based, and they just recently revamped the pricing. And this just in from the back office here, Wes.
Some big news.
Chris really blew it. Wes was here when I got the note, which you can hear is actually
It's
a physical.
so fresh and clean.
It's a physical note. And I believe my exact words were, "Oh God, I am such an idiot."
That's exactly verbatim.
Yeah, I got an email here printed out for me. If you guys if you're a new customer, you got to be a new DO customer. Sorry, this is a new customer only thing. If you go to do.co/unplugged, for 60 days, you can get a $100 credit at DigitalOcean.
What?
Yeah, I usually say a $10 credit. They upped it a little bit because they've just recently rolled out a whole bunch of new features. They've made their pricing even more competitive, and they have new flexible droplets. At $15 a month, you can mix and match resources, the most appropriate for your application. They have their big memory and CPU optimized droplets, and of course, my favorite, the 3 cents an hour all the droplets got better. If you've been listening to this show for a while and you built a machine on DigitalOcean, go upgrade it. You just have to shut it down, do the upgrade thing. And the reason why you have to shut it down is because they'll even re-expand your file system. I mean, like, it's the full upgrade. It's so great. A $100 credit, though, they've had this offer out here for a couple of weeks, and I forgot to tell the audience because I didn't read that paragraph.
So go get on it. Get set up. Experience the joy.
They're probably sitting around going, why is nobody taking advantage of a $100 offer? We don't do that very often, right? Ever. So, yeah, I'm just an idiot. Anyway, so you go to do.co/unplugged. You get the $100 credit, and you can try out something over there for whatever you want. I mean, go build
splurge. Enjoy yourself.
You want to build a GitLab? You want to go build a Nextcloud instance? You want to try out something? Just do it. DigitalOcean.com. And they also have a ton of really good documentation. You hear us mention the Arch Wiki all the time. I would say only number 2 to the Arch Wiki. The only number 2 to Arch Wiki these days is DigitalOcean's documentation, only because they're paying people to contribute, and so it's good quality stuff, and it's really well structured, and they have like a style guide and all that stuff, and it makes it really easy to read and follow. And that's just one of the perks of being a DigitalOcean customer. That's why Docker and Slack and Jupyter Broadcasting and many others are DigitalOcean customers. DigitalOcean.com. Go use our promo code DOUnplugged or do.co/unplugged. And hopefully you still have time, because it was a limited time offer, and I forgot to tell you guys for a couple weeks because I speed read. You know how sometimes I mispronounce stuff? Yeah, it affects all things of life, including giving you a $100 offer. I apologize. Go to do.co/unplugged and get a $100 DigitalOcean credit. I can't even believe I'm saying those words out loud. A $100 DigitalOcean credit.
I wish I was a new customer, except then I wouldn't have been enjoying DigitalOcean.
You got multiple email addresses. Come on. All right, so let's just really quickly talk about this bogus Linux vulnerability. It's got Stephen J. Van Hoff Nicholas really fired up, and it takes a lot to get him fired up these days. So Go Secure, a company that's trying to make a name for itself, has claimed to discovered Chaos, a stolen backdoor rising again. That's their title for it. It's a pretty good name, actually. Here's sort of the dirty secret of this horrible vulnerability called Chaos that Go Secure has discovered. It just simply brute forces an SSH login. So you just basically get compromised if you have a bad password. If you got a good password, it's not taking advantage of any zero-day exploits. It's not using some sort of side channel timing attack to read the memory and parse together your password. It's just simply using a password database.
Or just use keys.
Yeah, I know, right?
This just in from 2006.
From way before. Once your system's already been spread wide open because you used a bad password, then things tend to go wrong. It opens up TCP port 8338, which is accepting raw socket connections. and then once it has a bad password and it gets on there, I should mention, it can only open up port 8338, by the way, if it has root access because it's Linux, which means you also have a weak root password. So if you have a weak user password and a weak root password, then it can get on there and cause some problems. And it's called Chaos, and it's getting a lot of print this week. So if you hear people talking about a new Linux vulnerability called Chaos, don't worry. Just make sure you have a good password or use keys like
I
said.
suggest password 123. Just set that as root, enable root login over SSH. You'll be fine.
All right, I don't want to get too down about this, but I actually kind of want the Mumble Room's take on this because it is. It seems like it's a problem for anything that wants to take on Google or Apple or what Amazon or Microsoft is doing. And I'm talking about OpenStreetMaps. It's a pretty great product, and I really like I like the way it displays information. I kind of prefer, like when I'm looking at certain areas, I was checking out Pasadena recently trying to figure out if I could park Lady Jupes anywhere down there. And I just found the labeling system better and more accurate. Not accurate. I don't know, like...
It's more useful, but it's missing data that it would be nice to have in certain,
Yeah,
I mean,
like it's got some data that other things don't have, but then it's missing a bunch of... Yeah, okay, thank you. And so a former contributor wrote up an article about some of the problems that he sees with OpenStreetMap. And he's a big fan of OpenStreetMap, so this isn't like a takedown piece. It's him being concerned about it. And he talks about unclear usage policies, about how they sort of discourage the use of the free map, but then if you ask for it, they'll let you, but then if you use more than 5% of their bandwidth, they'll shut it down. They really want you to use their data to generate your own map. And then there's things in the back end, like the geocoder that figures out different areas and helps you search is really bad and it's way out of date. It expects very clear syntax, like an exact address, and you can't say things like bagel places downtown Seattle. And then the killer one is there's no moderation or review model, which, as you could probably imagine for something like OpenStreetMaps...
That could be difficult.
Yeah, introduces a lot of problems throughout the entire system, including vandalism, bot abuse, all sorts of things. And then, of course, getting the data is hard. It almost, when you read this, it feels like that the author tries to wrap it up on a positive note and says, these are all warning signs, and if we take immediate action, maybe we can save the day. He calls them roadblocks. Boy, when I read this, I read this as OpenStreetMaps is screwed. It seems impossible this day and age. The data that you need, the proprietary information, the fact that once you build something like this, people come and vandalize it. Can open source do this? Is this just something that open source can't do? You know, how do we do imaging? How do we do Earth imaging? Well, go ahead, Wimpy.
Wasn't Wimpy?
Whoever it was, go ahead.
So OpenStreetMap has been around for a long time. I remember interviewing someone from the project many years ago on the Ubuntu podcast when we had little mapping parties because there were just great swathes of emptiness around our towns and cities in the UK. And they were talking about maybe by the end of the year we'll have all of the UK mapped. And there were entire continents that hadn't been mapped yet. But people came together and they worked together and they fixed those problems. Yeah. And a lot of these are... you need more bodies. They need to recruit more people to help moderate the submissions that are happening. And I've fixed things. There was a road that was wrong near me, and I just logged in, tried to remember what my password was, fixed the road, done, and that's fixed for everyone forever who's using that map. I think they need a bit more of a recruitment drive to get more people involved in using it. They need to make the tools easier to use for sure, because it is a little bit janky to do this, and have some incentive for people to moderate these things and make it easier for people to get access to the data. If they can solve all those are mostly technical, but also getting more people involved. I think they're fine. I'm more a glass half full, and I know you're quite a glass half empty kind of guy.
Wow.
But I think this is solvable. All of this is solvable.
I certainly hope so. I tend to think that more bodies on the problem is only a part of the issue. I think some of this is like technology, because you think about it, it's a data issue, and the more Google's at a point now where they have millions of Android devices that are using Google Maps, constantly setting real-time feedback to Google Maps. Like, how do you ever come close to anything like that? You know what I mean? Like, so some part of it's like they talk about their geocoder in here is sort of out of date. And I guess you could somehow, maybe somebody could donate a new geocoder. Maybe Nokia could come along or something like that.
I think that makes it very... my takeaway from a lot of this is that they need to be clear about what they're trying to do and not do, because it can be hard, right?
Yeah.
Like they can't, maybe that's something they can't do, but they can still be really valuable as an open database for all these things,
Yeah,
even if it's not going to be Gmaps level interface.
I mean, technically, they can just use Google Maps data anyway, because Google doesn't own the concept of the data that they collect data around, usage. That stuff is they own, but they can't own the map itself. So
They don't provide access to the data, so the OpenStreetMap guys can't just poke at Google and get the data out, and they would get cease and desist, because some of the data isn't theirs anyway. It's licensed from third parties. But other people have tried to do in the same way that Android devices crowdsource a lot of the location and traffic data and so on. Other people have tried this. Mozilla tried this. They had a thing that was baked into Firefox OS, and actually you could optionally, I think it was called Mozilla Stumbler, you could install on your phone and just leave it running in the background, and it would just constantly send updates about where Wi-Fi access points were and try and locate where you were. So, they could put all these dots on the map and show where roads are and all that kind of stuff. It's possible, but you need a critical mass of people who are going to do it. And obviously, Google, with a critical mass of billions of devices, are already way out ahead.
I wonder if it isn't a bit of
But and they also do one thing.
Go ahead.
I don't know of any voluntary organization or anybody else doing. It's they actually go to governments and ask for maps, because governments have dense maps infrastructure, detailed, just the data set governments need for defense. They have it.
All right, fair enough.
It's usually public. But hopefully, I think that overall, if it's not going to help as much in the terms of maps, but in other things, the new GDPR ruling actually goes and says that you as a citizen or as a customer have the right to ask for the data that is about you. So that essentially could make it easier to compete by you having the ability to export all of your data and import in a second service.
To Dan's point, like the hours that places are busy, if you could even get 1,000 users to export their hours when they go to stores and import that would be useful. If you could even just get a small fraction.
You just have to be able to get that enabled, but enough, because they've
get
got it
enough
by
of them.
default. So
yeah. I still though feels a bit like the Spotify problem, in that Spotify is attempting to monetize music streaming when Google, Apple, and Amazon can just do music streaming as part of their overall offering. And if it costs them to do music streaming, it doesn't matter, because they're selling you the block-in to the platform. And I wonder if that is the same with maps. It is so expensive and it requires so much overhead to keep good competitive maps that perhaps it's the vendors that have a platform incentive to have mapping, like Google, Apple, etc., that will be the best at it. And I hate to say this, but maybe it's just not our bag. Go ahead, JJ.
So I would say, for those who don't want to be dependent on Google services, such as those who root and ROM their devices, they would probably see more incentive into seeing these open map platforms.
Yes.
And also,
but is that enough? Is that enough, JJ? Is that enough? Because I'll give you an example. I would like to have an OpenStreetMap that I could go to where I could get really good, super specific information about cellular signal, so I knew where I could go to get really good data signal. I would like to know where cops often hang out at, so I could mark that on a map. That's something I think that would be extremely useful. And just for me personally, I'd also like to know where I could park for 24 hours without getting towed. And I'd like to mark that up on a map. And I don't think Google is ever going to do any of that.
I mean, you're partially describing Waze there.
Which is owned by Google now.
Yeah, but still, but there's still demand for those who want to be free from Google services, such as yourself trying to go away from Google Photos. So,
yeah,
there are plenty of people who've built things on top of OpenStreetMap, building. Whether it's making access to data about, like you say, where's parking. There are people who've built cycle maps. There are people who've built canal maps in the UK, so you know where all the canals are. And it wouldn't take a lot for someone to, build on top. But as you've mentioned, it's difficult getting access to that map data without rebuilding all the tiles yourself, or licensing their API. So that is a difficult problem.
So I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Would you guys be willing to pay a bounty per se, right? So you would introduce into the platform a bounty that says, I would like these such region to be mapped, and this bounty coverage a few kilometers, whatever, right? And ultimately, then there's people that could attempt to actually map out that thing by trying to get the winning of that bounty. And
that's
that
a fascinating idea. That is a really...
And so long as you have the moderation to prevent abuse of people just going out and wandering outside their house for 10 minutes or strapping a phone to a dog and letting it loose in a field.
What you do is you build an AR game, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I kind of have the sense that maybe I should try to reach out to some folks at the OpenStreetMap project and get their take on this too, because this is Sergey's. This is Sergey's take, right? And so I'd like to get their take and see where they stand. So if time allows, or if anybody out there has a connection, let me know on Telegram or Twitter. I'd be more than happy to chat with somebody from the project and get their take on it and see where they're going with this. Because, like Popey was saying, there is so many great, just esoteric uses that people have built on top of OpenStreetMaps. It is worth it just for that to continue. I mean, I have my crazy reasons, but there's also really good reasons like biking and hiking, and others. So I would love to talk to somebody there, because this is one of those projects where if there was anything I could do, I'd pay a bounty. If there was anything I could do, if I could run an app on my Android phone while I drive Lady Jupes around the country to help improve their maps, I'd be more than happy to do it. So if you have anybody out there, if you're a listener to this show and you know anybody out there that maybe I should talk to, I'd love it if you could help make the connection. Because, geez, if I don't like the way, if I just don't prefer the way they render the maps, I just prefer reading OpenStreetMaps than I do Google Maps. Not that there's really anything super wrong with Google Maps, I just prefer the way they look.
They do look really nice. Yeah, I like them too.
So, you hate to see something like that fade away. And it makes you wonder, like, what other things? Like, what if one day we all got off our arses and decided we wanted to have an open source music streaming service? Could we do it?
Impossible.
What if we wanted to have like a peer-to-peer video streaming service to take on YouTube? Could we do it? I'm not convinced we could pull it off. But OpenStreetMap is one of those things where we already have a beachhead.
There's a bunch of data plugged in there.
We already have momentum. So if there's anything we could do as a community to come together,
not lose that.
Yeah, let's keep it going. Let's keep that rolling. And I'd love to talk to somebody over there about that. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Go there to sign up for a free 7-day trial and support this here show. It's everything you need to learn more about Linux. When I was first starting in IT, because IT is like dog years. I don't know if you thought about this, but I was recently thinking it's kind of like dog years. Like 10 years in IT is like 25 years in the banking field. And one of the things that's so crazy about, because I'm just past my mid-30s now, so it's not like I'm super old, but it is nuts to my face. It's it is nuts to my face that when I first got into IT, the way we would look stuff up, I'm 100% honest with you here, is about once a month, a couple of us from the department would get together in somebody's car and we'd go out to lunch, and then after lunch, when we're full and may or may not have had a beer in us, we would go to the bookstore and we would buy a book, a couple of books each, and then we would bring these books back and we would stack them on the shelf and we would never use them unless we were really desperate.
Plus, you probably got grease on them from the fries from lunch.
You know me too well, Wes. I couldn't even imagine a resource like Linux Academy. And it would have at best been some sort of half-assed feature that gets added on to some other training platform. So, you somewhere for corporate training or learning about Active Directory management or how to fix your sync, and then they would have thrown on a few Linux courses. Go learn some more, Chris. We'll pay you some money to go do that. And that would have been it. Later on in my career, what I did have some access to was community college training courses that would be taught off of campus or on campus, depending on the course, that were about Linux, but they weren't really about the career track that I was on, but they were just checking the box. My employer wanted me to have continued education. We were deploying Linux servers. I needed to do something, and they wanted results, so I went and took basic Linux courses. like Linux Plus and introductions to Linux. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there setting up Linux firewalls and Samba servers. It just didn't match. That's where Linux Academy completely changes the game. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. You sign up for a free 7-day trial. It's everything you need to learn about any category of Linux, from the basics all the way up to the high-level stuff like Azure, AWS, OpenStack, all of that. They have courses that are also created specifically to help you get certifications if that's the route you want to go. They have self-paced, in-depth video courses, and they have virtual labs they spin up on demand. And if you ever get stuck, they have a real human being that can help you. It's completely different than anything that I saw many years ago. And it's the kind of tool that's come along now. Now that Linux has enjoyed some success in the marketplace, somebody had to come along and create this. And I'm so thankful it's Linux Academy, because it's created by Linux enthusiasts, educators, and developers that came together to build the Linux Academy platform. And you can try it out 7 days for free at linuxacademy.com/unplugged. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. So, I'm going to get into an announcement here, but I just wanted to do an informal poll with the Mumble Room. If we were going to make a decision today, guys, would you say go back to IRC or stick with Discord? This isn't related to my announcement at all, but it's something we were talking about, Wes and I, in the pre-show. Now that
Can I cast the first vote?
Yeah, go ahead.
I vote IRC.
Go back to IRC.
Yeah, and I think I can back that up pretty well.
All right. Okay.
Let's hear it.
Let's hear it, Mr. Noel. What is it?
So I think anytime you look at a community, you have to look at the lowest common denominator to which the community can centralize around. And I think in the Linux community, the open source world, Red Hat organizes their community on IRC. And sure, there are people that are organizing on Discord and Telegram. We've seen, when we go to these events, a lot of the Ubuntu people are organizing on Telegram. So certainly there are other platforms in use. But the lowest common denominator, the one thing that exists in basically every Linux company and every open source community, is IRC. And I think that there are some, from a production standpoint, we're tempted to play with some of the new toys because it looks better on screen, there's some more animation. But I think that direct community engagement is something that is so valuable, it's worth giving up anything potentially else just to have that.
All right, so I agree with everything you said. I'll give you the counter argument. Discord is born in a mobile era. You can use Discord in your web browser. You can use Discord on a Windows box, Mac box, Linux box. You can use Discord on a phone. Discord is born of a Slack era where you have contextual rich chat with URL previews, image previews, emoticons, voice chat integrated. It's how IRC would be designed today if it had access to all of that feature set.
I would
have
agree.
all of that.
Go ahead, Popey.
Minus voice chat, I have everything you just said in IRC.
I thought you would be the Discord guy. Are you serious
IRC
right now?
sucks to set up on a phone,
I was gonna send to you to defend
Cloud,
Discord.
If you have the IRC Cloud app on your phone, it's in sync with the IRC Cloud app on your desktop. The only thing missing from the list that you just gave is voice chat.
So what do you think? Do you think we should go back to IRC for Jupiter Broadcasting?
I think you should use Slack.
Oh, you
I would also just piggyback onto that and say that is there anyone that exists in the Discord? Is there anyone that's in that community that doesn't already set up an IRC system? Like, I think a lot of the people I see in the Discord, they're the same people that are in IRC, so they've already set that up. And yes, I would agree with the gentleman who said that it's a little more difficult to set up on the phone, and I'm using Quassel, and that also is very simple to set up on the phone.
Okay, I'd like to hear from Wimpy, just from and Rotten. Let's go, Wimpy, if you're available, just because you've been a longtime observer of JB, you've sat back, you have some distance from this. I'd kind of like to hear your thoughts if you're there.
So I'm in the Discord and IRC, but I pay more attention to IRC because the IRC chat is easier to engage with than Discord chat. Whenever I go to Discord, there's pages and pages and pages of irrelevant stuff, and I can drop in and out of IRC. And as Popey says, I use IRC Cloud as well. So what I have on my desktop and my mobile phone is the same. If anyone tags me in any of the channels I'm subscribed to, I get notifications on my phone.
All right. Okay. I can't argue with any of that either. Producer Michael, I wanted to give you... Oh, Wes, did you want to say something?
I was just saying, does IRC Cloud have a free plan?
I think
Yep.
so. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I am also an IRC.
I would be
user,
curious for
IRC
the
cloud user.
opposite number. I like the comparison idea, but I wonder too how many people have set up IRC just for JB, but already have Discord from other things.
That is a great point. Okay, producer Michael, I wanted to give you a chance, and then maybe I'll come back to you.
They both have problems. Discord and IRC both have problems. I mitigate the problems with IRC in the same way, but not with IRC Cloud. I use Matrix and Riot.im.
Oh man, you fancy bear.
Well,
Okay,
you can use Riot.im without actually setting up your own server as well. So you can just use the matrix.org stuff.
so you're kind of in a roundabout way saying IRC, and if you want the fancy features, there's ways to get that.
Well, I mean, in the sense of like doing the displays and the previews, then as far as the communication aspect, IRC is easier because a lot of people will say it's harder to set up. But if you're just brand new to it, you can just go to a Kiwi IRC or something like that, where you just link to someone directly to a thing, and they're instantly in the chat. There's ways to do that where you cannot do that in Discord. And then there's other ways in, like, if you don't have a Discord account, you can't go to a Discord server. So there are aspects that, like, the only thing I would say is the previews and the log is not available directly in IRC. You'd have to do some way to mitigate that, such as like Matrix or IRC Cloud.
Okay. I'm going somewhere with all of this. This isn't just looking at our navel gaze. Was it that the same navel gaze in here? I am going somewhere with this. But Wimpy, I know you were jumping in there for a second, so I want to go back to you.
No, Michael's touched on all of those points, really. I've got nothing extra to add, other than the fact I recently re-added the Jupiter Broadcasting channel to my IRC Cloud configuration because I can't submit show title suggestions through Discord.
Right. Yeah. So I'm gonna. You know what I'll do is I'll put a poll out there. It's embedded in the show notes if you want to vote, because I there's lots of people that can't make it live that have a position on this that maybe sometimes that could vote. What brought this up was the discussion that I was having behind the scenes with Wes just today about, hey, what if for a hot moment we wanted to see if we could dynamically generate a live stream video feed on a droplet. What I mean by that, instead of using OBS here in the studio to capture the chat room, we had a droplet that was headless, that was monitoring a chat room and generating a video feed and streaming that to Scale Engine. So I could just connect in with an audio feed from wherever I'm at, and the droplet would actually generate the chat room and the lower third and all of that. And as that conversation progressed, we realized, well, damn, that's a lot harder when you're using Discord than it is if you're using IRC. And especially when it just comes down to stupid things like we have disparate rooms in Discord for the different shows, which is nice because then it's very focused. But at the same time, like, how do you pragmatically plan for that? Like, how do you switch rooms and capture just that? And what if the Discord API changes? And what kind of information can we get versus an IRC room where everything's just in one room and it's text, which is a lot easier to work with server side. And so then I thought, well, before we go kill ourselves, like, what is the interest here? Right now, there's only been 19 votes by the live stream. If you want to vote, strawpoll.me/151115496.
Be heard.
68% are voting to go back to IRC and I wouldn't shut down Discord, but we for the live stream focus, what's up on the live stream? What do we switch back to?
How does that play into how title stuff is generated? Is IRC primary more there?
Yeah, I think so. I think it would mean everything goes back to primary being an IRC.
Okay.
I don't care either way. I just want to do whatever folks are happy with.
Although, could we experiment with Matrix?
Matrix is interesting. Matrix,
you can use the IRC with Matrix, so you can do both with those.
Yeah, that could be something down the road to look more into. Wow.
Well, actually, Matrix IRC bridge is fantastic. I love it.
Yeah?
Like I've used it for so many different channels.
So you're saying go play with that. Go ahead, Noah.
No, that's interesting that this comes up. This is one of the things, and I was kind of dragging my feet on it because I
know.
Heard some.
I know. It's partially your fault, actually.
Well, I heard some rumblings about this, and so I was like, just hold out for a little bit and just see what happens. But yeah, we were talking about, because one of the things that Matrix allows you to do, and again, this is where I think there's a discussion to be had about software licenses, right? Because because it's open source, it means that I looked at my team here at Altispeed and I was like, hey, could we do some of these more competitive things from a production standpoint and tie them in? They're like, dude, you don't have no idea how easy that would be if we did it with Matrix and we could have these apps and this, that, all sorts of crazy things were coming up. And so I'd be tempted, if you guys did decide to dig into that, I'd dig into it with you and handle some of the heavy lifting, because I know how much you love dealing with the minutia of the projects, Chris.
You do, yeah. Wes has got some great ideas too. We really all need to get together and do a little powwow.
I completely agree.
All right. Well,
I've been using Matrix with IRC and Tergo's IRC for channel for years now.
Huh. All right. You know what? You've convinced me, Michael. I'm gonna spend a little more time and consideration with that. Okay. So I've got a big announcement that I'm pretty excited about that I want to get into. But before I do, I don't know. I wanted to make a little space here for Mr. Popey and Mr. Wimpy. Perhaps they would like to pre-tease some announcement. I know Curry just recently happened. The Ubuntu podcast has been on season break. Rumor has it the band may be getting back together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's it. No, go ahead.
Maybe. So yeah, we for those who don't know, like Wimpy and I do this little podcast. It's a little 2-bit show with.
It's a
Mark.
Wonderful show. Everybody should be
Thanks.
listening. Ubuntu
Thanks.
podcast.
Thank you. And every year since we started 10 years ago, we stop recording at Christmas. We make our last episode goes out over Christmas, and then we take a break for a couple of months, so we can all have a rest, and then we have traditional go out for a curry, and then at that curry we decide whether we're going to do it for another year and our plans for what we will change and what will stay the same, and we make loads of notes and we implement changes in the following week or so, and then we start the new season sometime soon after that. Isn't that right, Wimpy?
That's about it, right?
Yes, roughly like that. Yeah. So we're.
Can I ask
we're
you a
in
question about that though?
Okay.
How many years have you done the show where after the curry you didn't return?
But you never know.
Oh, that's so far we have 100% success rate of coming back after having a curry.
But one
Okay, so
year,
here's
but
my
one year,
suggestion.
1 year might not.
But I have a suggestion for you. How about at the last episode of recording, you just do it at the curry place, and then go ahead and decide it right then.
Adorable.
Oh, we got to have a break. We get like it's pretty intense. It's pretty hard work. You
You
know.
can have a break, but you can still make the decision and then take a break as well.
Yeah, maybe.
Doing one
No,
half-hour
not
show. Listen,
Also, there's
producer
something wrong
Michael,
about
you wouldn't
having-
understand this, but doing one half-hour show a week or recording 2 of them every 2 weeks is a huge amount of work.
Also, you're suggesting we have curry at Christmas. Are you mad?
Speaking of curry, I would.
all seasons. Sir.
I was just going to say, I'd like to lodge a complaint with my boss at Jupiter Broadcasting. Why is it
I know.
we never have
I
any
know.
sort of discussions around curry? Oh, I don't ever remember being invited to curry to discuss
Yeah.
the next iteration
know.
of Ask Noah
I know.
or LAS.
I know, dude. It's not just this. There's another, this and another. I am taking 2 lessons from the Ubuntu podcast, and I will be integrating them into the announcement that I have coming up in mere moments. Really, I'm taking lessons. I'm taking notes. But yeah,
Yeah,
guys.
it's good to know that we're so influential.
I'm looking forward to it. But
Yeah.
I do also want to give a mention to our buddies over at Late Night Linux, episode 31 of Late Night Linux. They had Todd, the CEO of Purism, on to talk about a lot of the questions that I raised on Linux Action News and that Joe's been wondering. And the guys over there just did a great job of asking Todd the questions, and Todd did a great job of answering them. So if you've been following the Librem 5, or if you've followed my journey with some of their stuff, I want to just totally give you a recommendation here. Go check out episode 31, a fantastic interview with the CEO of Purism about a lot of the things that have been on many of our minds. So that's episode 31 of Late Night Linux. Ubuntu podcast could be coming up, but I'm going to beat all of them with my new release. I'm very, very happy to announce the return of an old favorite to the Jupiter Broadcasting Network for a limited time. I'm doing something kind of different here, and I think it's going to be fun. It's just to the lead up and just a little bit after scale. For a limited time, I'm bringing back Tech Talk Today to the Jupiter Broadcasting Network, and you can go over to techtalk.today. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why Tech Talk Today? Why do Tech Talk Today when you could relaunch Plan B or come up with some other Linux-only show? It's a good question. You know, we put Tech Talk Today on hiatus in September of 2016 so we could launch User Air. And I thought, surely somebody will come along, like that Joe Resington asshole or Tom Merritt, and they'll launch another tech show. You know what? They're bastards, aren't they?
Those bastards.
You know.
I sure do.
They'll launch another tech show that finally gives a perspective that's outside the Silicon Valley bubble. That maybe even by some weird luck, somebody on the show has used open source software once in their life or knows that they're using open source software. Surely, by 2018, such a hero shall come along. And yet, no such Batman has arrived on the scene. And it's always really bothered me. I've gotten on the soapbox more than a few occasions about tech journalism on this show. There's lots of good tech shows. There really are. There's too many. There's too many tech shows. But they all have a really strong Silicon Valley bias. They typically can't see beyond the apps on their smartphone, to be honest with you, and it drives me crazy. And so looking at the near-term future of Jupiter Broadcasting, we definitely have a content problem. I'm going to be traveling to scale. We're going to have Linux Fest Northwest. And if things continue in the direction that they're going, I'll have more interviews at company like Microsoft and others that don't really fit into Linux Unplugged. They don't fit into LAN. They don't fit into Coder. So I'm going to launch a limited run of Tech Talk today. Something new, just one season. In fact, I'm doing seasons. That's one of the...
Whoa!
Yeah, I'm stealing that from Ubuntu Podcast.
Yoink.
And they invented it, and I'm taking it. I'm doing seasons, and I'm going to do 10 episodes a season. So I'm just doing 10 episodes, and I really would like you to give it a listen because I'm going to use this as an opportunity to have a fun romp, really just, what did you call it, self-referential tech coverage? What did you say earlier? It was almost like it could have been a tagline. Something you liked about Tech Talk today was the fact that it didn't take itself too seriously.
Exactly.
It's a good, fun show. I can't remember the words you used, but I should have written them down. And that's what our goal is. But
We'll have some curry later, and we'll think about this.
but because I'm doing a season, I'm going to have a bit of a story arc to it. You know, it's really going to be about getting my butt down to scale. And Noah and I specifically are going in with some things that we want to accomplish, some objectives ahead of time, and
like
some
eating curry.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. That'll be in there as well. So I'm relaunching a show for a limited run. It's just going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to experiment with some stuff, and we're going to talk lifestyle stuff, culture stuff, tech news, with somebody that comes with the perspective of the open source community. So if there's something in there from our perspective, I'm covering it. That'll be the stuff that gets preferential treatment, and it's going to be a fun experiment. And I may try doing a few things in there that you don't expect. So check it out. I would love to have you subscribe. The raw dog RSS feed, plug it into whatever you want. Tech Talk today, or techtalk.today/RSS. techtalk.today/RSS. There is going to be some exclusive content I'll generate for our patrons too at the Jupiter Signal Patreon page. Working with seasons sounds interesting. What do you think of that? You think I'm crazy?
No, I think it makes a lot of sense.
10 episodes.
10 episodes.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is this something that you're doing live, or is this something that it will be recorded offline then just published?
So a bit of both. Because predominantly I'm going to be all over the place during these next 10 episodes. Some of it's going to just have to be offline. In fact, I think the majority of it will be offline. There won't even be a YouTube video of it because it's just going to be Chris on the road talking about whatever I'm doing, talking about the news of the day, talking about the events we're going to. It's going to be kind of raw.
I like that.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah, I think that's going to be...
It's like Tech Vlog today?
Yeah, it's going to be kind of a little bit, actually. A little bit like Tech Vlog today.
It's mostly drone reviews, let's be honest.
Yeah. But honestly, I think there's also the perfect opportunity to then have like special live events. Because if we're not doing a live one all the time, like when we do a live one, and I'd like to at least do a couple a season, then that's kind of like a special event. And we'll make a special event out of it. So I do plan to do some live stuff, but I honestly suspect when Noah was here, he and I worked to install a microphone mount in my truck. I expect I'll be doing a lot of the Tech Talk todays from the passenger seat of my truck while I'm going to do something. I'm going somewhere. I'm on my way to scale. I'm going to an interview. I'm going to wake up in the morning. I'm going to look at the tech news. I'm going to think about stuff. I'm going to jump in the car. I'll either go park somewhere and do a show, or I'll have somebody else driving, and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to record an episode. Now, that's not to say it's going to sound like shit, because you guys know I'm not going to put something out that sounds like crap. So I'm going to also work on that. This will be another way for me behind the scenes to really kind of iron out the remote recording setup and whatnot, really get some of that stuff dialed in.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. And we'll be documenting the journey to scale. and kind of what that's been like. So that'll be where some of the vlog element comes in. Some of the people I talk to, some of the events people we get to bump into will all be in there. So I think it's going to be a particular kind of new show at JB, even though it's an old show at the same time.
Can I ask a question, Chris?
Yes.
Will you be changing the show artwork, or will you be keeping the thing where you've got the jacket and the shorts and your weird feet stance?
I know, the feet do look weird. I was just looking at the feet, and I'm not quite sure what happened with the feet. I don't really know. Because, Wes, I mean, my feet's not that, it's not that weird.
Totally normal.
Normal foot.
I mean, there's the extra things, but we don't have to get into that.
Yeah, it's just webbing. So what I plan to do is implement a chest-up approach. The artwork, because it's the weird feet, right? Although then at the same time, I kind of like it. It's kind of like Noah's dick in his Altispeed logo. It's sort of you remember the weird feet, So I learned from Noah, the savvy businessman that he is.
You know what? People talk about we're having a conversation about Altispeed, and I didn't buy ad spot on on Linux Unplugged.
That's right, exactly. But Popey, if you have any artwork that you want to mock up for me, I'd be happy.
I'm the last person to ask.
Maybe we can make it
Design
just
choices.
the feet. That might be what we need to do.
There you go. Yeah, man. So scale March 8th through the 11th. I know. I'm just excited about it. I'm curious to see where they go with this thing. It's been going in a certain direction that I wasn't super into, and now they've righted the ship, and they seem to be sailing in a new direction. So I'm curious to go see that. But more importantly, it's like, well, where the hell are things going? Really. You got that crazy Canonical shipping GNOME. You got Elementary OS encrypting their drives. You got containers for days. You've got all these different interests that have kind of really established their places now. Where's all of this going? Especially just in the next, 10 months. Where's this all going for Linux and open source? And those are some of the things that I want to try to answer over the next few weeks on Tech Talk Today and on this show. And I believe that Noah and I will be on the same beat, so you'll hear more about it on Ask Noah as well. I think it's going to be really kind of a fun experiment, and the best part about it is only 10 episodes, right? Like, whew, it's just like, go for it, and then like,
you get in, you get out.
Yeah, like I've never done anything, I'm just going to do 10 of them, and then I'm going to go have curry. I think that's brilliant. What do you think, Noah? Is that crazy?
I think there's one crucial part of that missing that you really like. So when you look at the way that you want to do that, I think the important thing is to get input from outside sources. And I think the best way to do that is to invite me along for the curry. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I think it's a good plan.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And maybe sometimes do a weekly show with our Mumble Room. Guys, thank you for making it. I really appreciate it. It was a good show with you. Stick around because the Ask Noah program's coming up if you didn't know. The Ask Noah show, just moments away. And you can hang out here and join him. Otherwise, join us live. We do this at 2 p.m. Pacific. The live show usually kicks off around 1:30, 1:45 Pacific. And all of that is converted to the proper time in your local area at jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. And find the Tech Talk Today program, the relaunch at techtalk.today. And it's techtalk.today/RSS for the feed. Give it a listen. Let me know what you think. We have some special stuff in the works. I don't know. It's fun to bring back an old favorite. It's fun to bring back people. People are still subscribed to that show. People are still downloading that show. It's still got a subreddit. Like, it needs to come back for even just a bit.
Tech Talk yesterday.
Tech Talk yesterday, tomorrow at techtalk.today. Go check it out. And then find the calendar for the live shows, our contact page at jupiterbroadcasting.com. And we also have the subreddit, linuxunplugged.reddit.com. We got all the things.
No excuse not to reach out.
You got the Ask Noah show coming up, and you can come over here on the Tuesdays and you just hang out for a nice old Linux meal. You get the Unplugged program, which is a really nice long live stream. Then you get the Ask Noah show. It's a good Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, we had a long-winded discussion that didn't really answer your questions. Just ask Noah about it.
Just ask Noah. And then, once you're done listening to all this live stuff, go check out TechSnap.systems for Wes and I talking about system administration and network building woes, and the Ubuntu podcast as well. And go check out Tux Digital on YouTube because producer Michael is putting out stuff over there. All right! That concludes the plugs of this week's episode.
We're out!
Every now and then you got to get them out.
Props.
It's like a form of therapy. You just got to get it out. Thank you for joining us, guys. Hope you and gals, enjoyed the show. Go follow me. I'm at ChrisLES on the Twitter. We'll be talking about some of our projects. The network's at Jupiter Signal. That guy right there, he's at Wes Payne.
That's right.
I like that. Damn. That's almost as good as bacon, dude.
So good.
It might be. I would like to see pain versus bacon. See which one wins. Don't forget, speaking of voting, we have the poll in the show notes. Should we go back to IRC or stay on Discord for the live chat and the focus of the show?
You decide.
Let us know. Let us know. You can vote. We'll see you right back here next Tuesday.
I've never installed GNU/Linux.
You don't need to install that. Don't bother. Don't bother. Don't bother yourself. You got other things to do.
Haven't you heard of OS?
It's just the primary platform for your tools. All right, jbtitles.com, title suggestions. What do you guys think? What should we do? What should we do? jbtitles.com. Boop-a-boop, boop-a-boop, boop-a-boop. Make IRC great again. Metrics talk today. That is a pretty clever combo you came out there with TechNav. All right, so you all have to go over and subscribe and listen to Tech Talk today, at least for 1 or 2 episodes, and then let me know what you think. You got to give it like a 2-episode go, because it's going to take me a little bit to find a groove. So go over there and give it a 2-episode go for me.
Will this be a new RSS feed, or will it use the old one?
Well, it was going to use the old one, and then there was a bit of a server failure on my part. And as of right now, it's Tech Talk today. It's techtalk.today/RSS. The old feed may start working again, and it may not.
If you're lucky.
Yeah. I'm sorry. One ping only was my title suggestion in reference to the canonical data collection, which I thought was kind of good because,
I mean, after today, I'm sort of like interested in trying to get one of these, either Matrix or Riot, to work with IRC.
There you go.
I'm still trying to figure out how.
You maniac. So one ping only is, of course, I submitted that, so I'm a little, particular.
I like that, and the metrics talk today is nice.
Metrics talk today.
One ping only is elegant. I like that part a lot.
Mm-hmm. And it also sort of reinforces the point that it's just one really kind of big data shot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
That's my vote.
I don't really have a strong sense. I would like to see them publish that data. I would really like to see that data
awesome.
public. Yeah.
I wonder what the granularity will be.
Yeah. Yeah. Down to OEMs would be. That's all really what I'd be happy for.
It's funny having that Apple thing go automatic. Like when that Apple pop-up first landed in Ubuntu, people complained and said Ubuntu was more crashy than previous releases, and that's because previous releases didn't have a pop-up that told you something was crashing,
right? Yeah.
And now it does,
yeah.
Right? And so there are so many blog posts out there that tell you how to turn that thing off and make Apple go away, and it's so frustrating for me when I'm looking at the errors website and looking at all the crashes and thinking, what are the crashes that we're not capturing because people turn that thing off? And so that's why I'm keen for that thing to be fully automatic.
Yes,
so if people tick the box, they just get sent, and then we can look at the crash log, crash dumps, and we can fix them.
Yep, I agree. Because I actually almost always just dismiss it because I don't want to go through, because I've had enough of those ask me then to log in or provide an email address or things like that, and I clear it. I clear it immediately as soon as I see it, because I'm just trying to get something relaunched and get back on air, But yeah, I agree. I would be more than happy to let it just stand in the background and not bother me and let me get about my day. So, are we going with one ping only? Are we doing that? It's only got one vote, so it's not a strong vote over at jbtitles.com.
Well, I didn't physically vote.
Hey, one vote only.
Now.
Here you go.
Yeah, one vote only for one ping only. Well, we should probably clear out soon because there's this program coming up next, and they need the live stream cleared for a bit.
What's great is we're talking about, one of the things we're talking about is one of your favorite things, Chris, an Android app.
What?
It runs on iOS too.
Oh, well, now I'm interested.
No, but really, I bet you. Here, I tell you what. I'll make you a bet. I'll bet you after you finish listening to the episode, I bet you at least download it and try it. I don't know if it'll. I don't know if it'll be your cup of tea if you stick with it, but it is the most useful app I have singularly ever installed on my phone, bar none, except for maybe Telegram.
Oh, all right, you got me. I'll be listening.
What was that app?
I'll be listening. You got to stay tuned.
JBLive.tv, got to stick around.
Got to stay tuned. Yeah, we should probably hand over the stream. Don't forget to start the droplet this week, and start it before the show starts, so that way people.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So all this technology, it confuses me, Chris. I don't understand.
I know. We really
There's all these buttons and keyboards everywhere.
We really just need a system that when I hit stop, it just automatically switches over, and then when you hit stop, it switches back or something.
You know what we should do? In fact, we've got enough time. I should almost just do this right now. Is just set the thing up.
We don't have enough time. We don't have enough time, but it's close. Right. We did 15 minutes ago, but I don't know if we do now.
Okay, here's what we're gonna do. So it's 48 now. So when we eventually do it, because it's gonna happen someday, we'll have to time it and find out who was right.
See, you might have been right. I bet if all things being equal, I bet you could do it in 3 minutes.
I think so. Yeah. But the problem is, and where you're right, is it's the thing that's going to go wrong that isn't going to go wrong when we actually time it, but it would go wrong if we tried to do it right against it when there's a time thing.
Yeah, it's so true. Fucking technology. All right, well, I'm going to end the YouTube stream. Thanks for hanging out there. The stream will be back in a bit, though, if you want to catch the Ask Noah show. But I have to clear out so that way we have clear delineation between the broadcasts and whatnot. So the YouTube stream is stopping now. But thank you guys for being here. And, of course, the party will continue on over at jblive.tv. I haven't checked the FM stream.